Chapter 96. Looking at Zhang Yinluo, who was so excited, Sun Lang suddenly asked, "Are you afraid of monsters?" "Huh?" Zhang Yinluo jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on and shouted, "What nonsense are you talking about? How is that possible? How could I be afraid of that kind of thing?" I see. Sun Lang nodded and said solemnly, "Heroine Zhang Yinluo is brave, quick-witted, hot-blooded, and upright. Demons and monsters can't get close to her, and demons and monsters all retreat. Why would you be afraid of ghosts?" Zhang Yinluo's face lit up, and she nodded repeatedly. Then the ranger patted her on the shoulder and said sincerely, "To tell you the truth, I'm very afraid of monsters, especially female monsters. A 1,000-year-old snake demon in white, a cat demon with huge breasts, and a monster who looks like a 17 or 18-year-old girl, but whose actual age is indescribable. I'm scared of all of them." Although Zhang Yinluo didn't understand what he meant, she still laughed at him. "Aha! Ah! I didn't expect that a man like you would be afraid of that kind of thing." Sun Lang shook his head and said, "That's not right. Even if it's embarrassing, it's not as embarrassing as a necromancer who is afraid of ghosts. I'm a ranger, not a Taoist. My duty is to protect world peace, ensure the stability of the community, and solve problems for the people, not to expel monsters. So it's not embarrassing that I'm afraid of monsters." Yes. Ah, no. I mean, what you said makes sense." Zhang Yinluo patted Sun Lang on the shoulder and nodded. "However, it's still a bit embarrassing to be afraid of monsters, right?" "Uh-huh. Yes, so, Yinluo, it's great that you're not afraid of monsters." Sun Lang patted the girl on the shoulder and said, "Then the Central Research Committee has decided to assign tasks to everyone. Now, this immortal fishing house is being coveted by others. For the sake of long-term peace and development, we have decided to eliminate future troubles. Therefore, we have to make the next plan according to the situation of the opponent. First, young Miss Zhao and housekeeper Su will be a team. You will be responsible for using the power of the Marquis Jing and manner to investigate this matter. If the other side is a master from the righteous path, then use the methods of the Marquis Jing and manner to make them retreat." Zhao Feihuang smiled and nodded. Although she was a little disappointed that Sun Lang didn't call her by her name, at least she was treated as one of their own and assigned tasks, right? "Then, Dongfang Xian and I will be in a group. If the other party is a brother from the underworld, then let us use gentle methods to reason with them." Dongfang Xian seemed to have thought of something and revealed a silly smile, which contrasted nicely with the gentle expression on Sun Lang's face, causing people to feel an inexplicable chill. Zhang Yinluo blinked and suddenly had a bad feeling. He shouted, "Hey, where's my mission? Where's my mission? What do you plan on doing?" Sun Lang turned his head and revealed an incomparably kind smile. "I think, although the probability is very, very small, but with the vigilance of a ranger, we should still consider it as a possibility. Didn't Dongfang Xian say it before? Among the people that came to persuade her to sell the restaurant, one of them said that there was a monster in the restaurant. Although this kind of statement is very ridiculous, it might be true." He patted Zhang Yinluo's shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. "So, Yinluo, you're not afraid of monsters. That's great. I'll leave the task of exploring this restaurant to you. After we leave, you can explore this place from top to bottom. Then at night, you can spend the night here. If you have nothing to do, you can do some interesting things. For example, walk down the stairs at midnight, take out a candle and look in the mirror, draw a heroic spirit summoning array, set up a blood altar, etc. If nothing happens, then it means there are no monsters here. How about it? It's a very easy job, right?" Hey. Zhang Yinluo loudly protested. "Easy my ass. You want me to do this alone? There's no other way." Sun Lang spread out his hands and said, "I'm very afraid of monsters. I'm scared to death. I don't dare to do this kind of thing. Why don't you ask the others?" Zhang Yinluo's gaze turned to Dongfang Xian, and the little girl immediately put on a frightened and timid look, shaking her head like a rattle drum. "No, I don't want to. I'm scared of monsters, scared to death." Zhao Feihuang's behavior was even more outrageous. Seeing Zhang Yinluo's eyes looking at her, Miss Zhao immediately hid in Su Qingluan's arms and sobbed. I'm scared too. This restaurant, whose business has become very bad for no reason, often has strange and mournful sounds at night. When I walk alone in the dark and cold corridor with a candle, I often feel that something is following behind me. The candlelight will reflect a strange shape in front of me, and drops of liquid will drip from the top of my head. When I look up, I'm so scared. When he raised his head would be bitten off by a ferocious and terrifying mouth. Zhang Yinluo's expression became even worse. She suppressed the panic in her eyes and finally looked at Sun Lang. She forced herself to calm down and said, Ha ha ha. Although I'm not afraid of monsters, isn't it a bit too much for a girl like me to stay in this restaurant alone at night to chase after some monster? No. Why don't I accompany you to investigate this matter during the day, and you stay with me at night? Sun Lang held her chest and said with a delicate face, But I'm really scared. Can you sleep with me at night? Zhang Yinluo was stunned for a moment, then said fiercely, You wish. Zhao Feihuang covered his face and sighed. A certain big-breasted woman who thought that her companion was living next door was incomparably safe. In the middle of the night, she was suddenly woken up by a low sigh. Her heart was filled with panic and fear, and she called out to her companion next door, but there was no response. The surroundings were very quiet, but suddenly, under the moonlight by the window, a round shadow suddenly appeared, floating in the air. It's like, what nonsense are you talking about? Do you think I'll be afraid just because you say something like that? Am I going to be afraid? Zhang Yinluo shouted at Zhao Feihuang. After discovering that Sun Lang and Miss Zhao were unreliable, she turned her gaze to Dongfang Exine, and her expression became gentle. Little sister Dongfang, this is the restaurant you bought, right? So tonight you... Dongfang Exine hid behind Sun Lang, stuck his head out, and said timidly, People, I'm afraid. Zhang Yinluo forced out a gentle smile. It's fine, big sister will protect you. Dongfang Exine's face was filled with fear as she said softly. In the middle of the night, when Dongfang Exine was half asleep and half awake, she felt that someone was strangling her throat. She opened her eyes, and the big-breasted, vicious woman who looked like a dignified person during the day had already torn off all of her disguise. She laughed and said, very good, if I swallow this little girl alive, my breasts will become even bigger. Zhang Yinluo looked around and was about to go crazy. You all. But at this moment, a clamor came from outside, as if someone was shouting, Is this the place? Come on, go and get the door. I'd like to see who the F***CK dares to hit my people. Zhang Yinluo's eyes immediately flashed with a bright light. With a clang, she pulled out her sword, and between her brows, killing intense sunran, she said in a clear voice, In broad daylight, you actually dare to commit murder on the streets? Is there still any law? As expected, it was you bunch of scoundrels who coveted the property of good people, and even dared to fabricate rumors about demons. You really deserve to be beaten. Today, I'll let you explain all the evidence of your crimes. Chapter 97. The tragic scene was already unbearable to look at. The screams were especially unbearable to listen to. Zhang Yinluo, who was in a hurry to hide something, let out an excited roar when he heard the commotion outside. He raised his sword and rushed out. With the scabbard in his left hand and graceful feather in his right hand, he charged into the crowd of enemies and slashed at anyone he saw. The group of hooligans outside were caught off guard and were knocked over. Amidst the screams and shouts, Zhang Yinluo's slightly frantic voice could be heard. Monster? Who asked you to make up stories to scare people? Who asked you to talk nonsense to scare people? After Sun Lang and others walked out of the door, they saw heroine Zhang as if she had entered no man's land. She was unparalleled among these 20 or 30 hooligans. Her actions were ruthless and decisive, and her expression was fierce and brutal. It was really shocking. The paladin stroked his chin and said slowly, Fortunately, she resigned this morning. Otherwise, she would definitely be charged with violent law enforcement. A trace of fear appeared in Dongfang Xian's eyes. He nodded and said, "She's really too fierce. Should I thank her for showing mercy before? She's a woman who can pour feces on her father's head. Is there anything in this world that she doesn't dare to do?" Sun Lang sighed. Suddenly, his expression changed. "Hey, those guys seem to have some martial arts skills. Why don't they dare to resist? Hey, they seem a little familiar." At this moment, a familiar voice rang out, "Stop! Stop! Hero and Zhang! Stop fighting! Hero-san, it's me. It's me, Zhang Jianyuan." Sun Lang turned his head and looked at the girls with a confused face. "Zhang Jianyuan? Who is Zhang Jianyuan?" The corner of Butler Sue's eyes twitched, and he said with a strange face, "It's the big head of the embroidery hall. At that time, you were tracking Qin Yu's traces and chased them to the embroidery hall. You even beat them up. At least remember his name." With this explanation, Su Qingwan felt a little depressed. "I was the villain in that matter. You're a hero of justice, and Zhang Jianyuan is someone who needs help. Why do you need me, a villain, to explain the name and background of the person you've helped?" Oh. The ranger nodded. "So it's Mr. Stinky Tofu. Who is Mr. Stinky Tofu?" At this time, Zhang Yinluo also realized who he was hitting. He stopped in embarrassment, and then raised his eyebrows as if he had thought of something. When Sun Lang and the others quickly walked out of the immortal fishing house, Hero and Zhang had already grabbed Zhang Jinyuan's collar and shook the poor embroidery hall's head desperately. "Speak! Are you guys playing tricks on me? Speak! Are you coveting the fishing immortal tower? Speak! There are no demons here. Say it quickly. Hurry up and tell me there are no demons here. Hero and Zhang. Let go of me, Hero and Zhang." Zhang Jianyuan begged for mercy with a bitter face. Originally, with his martial arts, he should have been able to fight back against Zhang Yinluo. However, in the past 2 days, the situation regarding Qin Yu had changed several times and finally calmed down. He was secretly informed by the Mingzhou government that he could take Qin Yu back in a few days, and he was asked to discipline him and not cause any more trouble at his level. Although he couldn't fully understand a matter and didn't know what had happened in the past few days, people in this line of work had an extremely keen sense of smell and well-informed channels. Even a few sporadic words were enough to make him break out in a cold sweat. And to resolve this matter beautifully without even the slightest bit of repercussions, exactly how much ability was required was already beyond his imagination. Especially that Constable Zhang Yinluo. She was fierce and cruel, and her martial arts were excellent. At that time, if Hero-san hadn't stopped her, Embroidery Hall would have been turned into a river of blood by her. When she took him away to extort a confession, she even wanted to torture him with all kinds of torture. Thanks to Hero-san's help, he escaped the disaster. Moreover, she was the eldest daughter of the Zhang family in Mingzhou and a disciple of the Vulture Spirit Palace. She also had a strong background. Therefore, Zhang Jianyuan believed that he would never dare to provoke such a ruthless character, even if he had 3 times the courage. But, damn it, why did he meet such a terrible woman when he was buying a restaurant? Hey, what are you doing? Zhang Xiantou is our good friend. Don't be so rough. Sun Lang grabbed Zhang Yinluo's arm and pulled her behind him. Then he looked at Zhang Jianyuan and said with a smile, "What's the matter, Big Xiantou? What brings you here? Could it be that you've already gathered your men and brought your brothers to settle the grudges from that day?" Zhang Jianyuan held Sun Lang's hand tightly, as if he had seen a living bodhisattva in a sea of blood. His face was full of grief and indignation. He said excitedly, "Hero-san, you're slapping me in the face. You've helped me and Qin Yu so much. I can't thank you enough. How dare I retaliate against a good person like you? Alas, this time, thank you for coming to help me out." Sun Lang carefully observed Zhang Jianyuan for a moment. After confirming that this guy was not scolding him in a roundabout way, he smiled and shook Zhang Jianyuan's hand. "You're welcome. I don't have any other bad habits. My only bad habit is that I love to meddle in other people's business. In fact, I don't have any praiseworthy merits. My only merit is that I have almost no shortcomings. When I meet someone who needs help, I can't just leave them alone. Zhang Yinluo listened behind him and showed an expression of wanting to vomit. However, when this expression fell into Zhang Jinyuan's eyes, it was naturally interpreted as, "You bastard is really a hindrance. I'm about to vomit. Get lost, get lost." Big Xiantou was frightened and wanted to leave first. He lowered his eyes and said, "Hero-son, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first." "Wait." Sun Lang smiled and said, "Big Xiantou, why are you here? Is it convenient for you to reveal? Was there some kind of monster here?" "It's okay. Don't worry and say it boldly." "Monster?" Zhang Jinyuan blinked his eyes and said in confusion, "What monster? There really isn't a monster." Zhang Yinluo poked his head out from behind Sun Lang's shoulder and said happily, "Then what are you here for?" Zhang Jinyuan said with a sad face, "Of course I'm here to buy a restaurant. I took a fancy to this restaurant before, but the boss here actually asked for a sky-high price. A restaurant with no business and a deserted location. The price was actually more expensive than Song Jiaqiao's Wang shop. That's fine." After some bargaining, the price was finalized. A few days ago, he actually told me that he was going to raise the price. Isn't this a joke? He went back on his words. How can I let him go? You know, a few days ago, because of that matter, I was in a terrible fix and didn't have time to argue with him. Today, I was free, so I found a few idlers to make a ruckus here. I had to teach him a lesson. His voice was getting lower and lower. He secretly glanced at Zhang Yinluo. Obviously, he blamed the incident in the morning on Zhang Yinluo. But today, those idlers came crying and complaining that they were beaten by a crazy woman. When I asked them how she beat them and what kind of weapon she used, they refused to say. I just happened to have some free time recently, so I brought a few confidants and a group of idlers on the street to walk around. I didn't expect. Zhang Yinluo glared at him. I wasn't the one who beat them last time. Also, you're a person of the underworld. Why did you buy this restaurant? At the mention of this, Sun Lang's eyes suddenly lit up. He held Sun Lang's hand tightly and said excitedly, "That day, Hero-san told me that this business was not a long-term plan. It was better to get out of it as soon as possible. Otherwise, Qin Yu's incident will be a lesson. Sooner or later, I will become an abandoned pawn in the game of big shots." I thought about it and found that it was true. But everyone in Embroidery Hall has to eat. If we don't do this business, what else can we do? Speaking of which, we are fortunate to have great Hero-san's guidance on how to make this stinky tofu. And we've already achieved initial success under our meticulous experiments yesterday. He turned his head and shouted behind him, "Come on, bring a few pieces of stinky tofu. Let Master Sun taste it." Sun Lang's expression changed. He took a step back secretly and held Zhang Yinluo's wrist. "Yinluo, don't you want to eat it every day? I won't fight with you this time." Chapter 98. Zhang Yinluo's hand was grabbed by Sun Lang. After hearing the ranger's words, she showed an expression that said, "Sun Lang, you tricked me." However, she reacted very quickly. She immediately grabbed Sun Lang's sleeve and said with a fake smile, "Don't joke around, Hero Sunday. You like canned herring so much. Naturally, you like stinky tofu very much." Sun Lang said, "Nonsense, nonsense. Aren't you the one who threw the canned herring around?" Zhang Yinluo widened her eyes and said angrily, "How can you be so shameless as to confuse right and wrong? Aren't you the one who threw the canned herring around?" The ranger shrugged and looked at Dongfang Xin innocently. The girl with the big gun shook her finger, then pointed at Zhang Yinluo and said righteously, "This morning it was this woman who threw that kind of thing into my shop." Then Sun Lang looked at Zhao Feihuang. Miss Zhao hugged Su Qingwan very cooperatively and cried, "It's her, it's her, it's her, it's her, the bad woman who threw the canned herring in my house." In the end, Sun Lang spread his hands and said, "When I went to your house that day, I saw your uncles and uncles covered in that thing. I think it was you who threw it." Obviously, with several young and beautiful ladies as witnesses, as well as the righteous and kind swordsman's son's testimony, the woman with the incense looked at swordswoman Zhang with an expression that said, "F***CK, so you were really the one who threw the canned herring in Embroidery Hall." She was angry but didn't dare to say anything. Several big black pots were firmly placed on Zhang Yinluo's head, just like that. Zhang Yinluo once again felt the malice from the world. Her lips trembled. She wanted to refute, but it seemed that she had done those things. She was really speechless, facing all kinds of complicated gazes. She suddenly laughed coldly and then grabbed Sun Lang's wrist. With an expression of, "Let's perish together," she said loudly, "Zhang Jianyuan, what are you waiting for? Quickly bring the stinky tofu. Let's all try it." How could Zhang Jianyuan disobey the words of the most terrible demoness? He waved his hand, and a henchman behind him presented the food box in his hand with both hands. He weighed the food box in his hand and revealed a mysterious smile. Just as he was about to introduce this novel and unique food to everyone present, he looked up and was shocked. He saw that Hiro-san, the demoness, and several beautiful young ladies were all wearing strange black masks. It was obviously some kind of device that could filter smell. Hiro-san, you don't have to do this. Although the stinky tofu taste is it is actually delicious. It is really delicious. Like a salesman who worked very hard, he opened the lid of the food box as if he was presenting a treasure, revealing the strange color of the unknown substance inside. Come, there's a lot of it. Those young ladies can also come and try it. Uniformly, the people around Zhang Jianyuan took 3 steps back and covered their noses at the same time. Then, Big Shanto was disappointed to find that those young ladies were crazily shaking their heads, except for the young lady who was carrying a big spear. That young lady's eyes were shining, as if she was very interested in the stinky tofu. But what made Zhang Jianyuan a little uneasy was that the young lady's eyes did not seem to be looking at the stinky tofu, as if she was looking at food, but he quickly threw this thought to the back of his mind. After all, his main purpose was to show his results to the kind Hiro-san. After all, this stinky tofu secret technique was passed down by Hiro-san. This result should be first appreciated by Hiro-san. He took a few steps forward as if he was presenting a treasure, and respectfully said, "Hiro-san, would you like to try it?" "You brat." Sun Lang was silent for a moment. "Big Shanto, I say, can that thing really be eaten?" Although there is no problem with my recipe, you have to know that in theory, it needs a lot of practice to prove it. In other words, even if you know the method, the finished product may not be perfect. So, are you sure that there's really no problem? There is absolutely no problem. Zhang Jianyuan patted his chest and said, "Hiro-san, I still know a little about the rules of the underworld. Every time the stinky tofu comes out of the pot, I will definitely eat a piece first, and then let the brothers of the embroidery hall taste it. Everyone agrees that the recipe and the heat control this time are almost perfect." He raised his arm and shouted, "You guys tell Hiro-san whether the stinky tofu is delicious or not." Although the henchman of the embroidery hall behind him showed an expression of F***CK. This is so embarrassing. They still nodded with certainty and shouted in unison, "It's delicious." F***CK. You guys actually ate it? Seeing that Zhang Jianyuan was about to persuade him again, Zhang Yinluo also pushes back and said with a smile, "Hiro-san, it's hard to refuse such kindness. Don't you want to taste it?" "Little girl, are you laughing at me?" Sun Lang sneered in his heart. His eyes moved, and a plan came to his mind. He suddenly put on a gentle face and said sincerely, "It seems that I don't need to taste it, because I can see from your eyes that you love cooking. The stinky tofu made with this kind of heart can't be bad food, but..." He raised a finger and said seriously, "But the key point is that you didn't make this stinky tofu just to satisfy your own appetite. You also wanted to let more people know about its delicious taste and promote it to the whole world. You also wanted to make money openly and honestly so that your friends could have a proper and proud career. So, you shouldn't let me taste this stinky tofu. You should let the whole Mingzhou city taste it." "Hiro-san, what you said is so right. That's exactly what I plan to do." Zhang Jianyuan looked excited. Old Zhang, I'm a rough man. Your words are right in my heart. Come, let's have a few pieces. But what's the problem? Although this stinky tofu tastes good, it smells very bad. So, without tasting it, Most people are not willing to eat it. This is the biggest obstacle to promoting stinky tofu. Sun Lang took a step back as if nothing had happened, and then asked Zhang Jinyuan, "By the way, have your henchmen tasted it? How did you persuade them?" Zhang Jinyuan scratched his head and said with a silly smile, "At first, they were not willing to eat it. Even if I ordered them to eat it, they would not eat it. Because they thought that it was fake, Because they thought that there was feces in it, I was also bewitched. Everything was fake, this was just feces. They refused to taste it. So, I thought about it, and could only catch a person and stuff it into their mouths. After they were forced to eat a few pieces, they came back to their senses and felt that it was very delicious. They also persuaded others to eat it, but naturally, the others refused. Fortunately, there were already people who knew that it was delicious, so we went to catch others and fed them stinky tofu. After that, more and more people recognized this taste, and more of our companions, we caught more and more people to eat the stinky tofu. Then, the big incense head gave a thumbs up. Just like that, the whole embroidery hall accepted this stinky tofu that smells very bad but tastes very good. Sun Lang's expression was a little subtle. "I feel that what you are selling is not stinky tofu, but the T-virus." Zhang Yinluo's expression was also very subtle. "I feel a little sorry for Qinyu. When that woman returns to the embroidery hall, she will definitely see a very beautiful scene. So, the whole embroidery hall can prove that stinky tofu is very delicious. Come, Hero-san, you also have a few pieces." Sun Lang pressed Zhang Jinyuan's hand and said seriously, "You are the leader of the embroidery hall, so you can force them to eat sh*t. I mean stinky tofu. But what about the people in Mingzhou City? What about your future customers? Are you going to use this kind of violent method to feed them sh*t? I mean stinky tofu?" He looked at Zhang Jinyuan's confused eyes and smiled proudly. "Oomph. Do you want me to show you the way?" Chapter 99. Zhang Jinyuan sighed. "This is the problem that we are worried about. Because it smells really bad, almost no one is willing to try stinky tofu, even if it's given for free. We also plan to go to some restaurants to promote it, but the results are predictable. So, we decided to buy a restaurant first, attract customers, and plan slowly. It's clothes. Sun Lang said proudly. "You are still too young. What's the use of opening a restaurant? Stinky tofu is cheap, easy to make, and smells bad. It's not elegant. Even if it's really delicious, those high-class restaurants won't accept it. At this stage, you have to focus on the customers, who are the majority of the middle and lower classes. What's the point of opening a restaurant? In my opinion, there are no urban management now. You are gangsters, so you don't have to pay anyone protection fees. So, you can build some small cars and sell them on the streets. You can set up a mobile stall." "That's true." Big Incense Head frowned. "But how can we sell it? Ordinary people will avoid this smell as soon as they smell it. How can they be willing to try it?" Sun Lang rolled his eyes. "You give it to others for free, but they won't be willing to try it. So, why don't you pay them to try it? For example, set up an arena, find an empty space, and set up a competition to test courage. Set up plates of stinky tofu, and take out a sum of money as a reward. Whoever has the guts to eat this plate of stinky tofu will be able to get the money. With such a huge reward, there will definitely be courageous people. And after those people have the courage to eat it, they will realize that this thing is actually not bad at all. Isn't this free advertising in front of everyone?" Zhang Jinyuan's eyes lit up. The more he thought about it, the more reasonable it made sense. This idea is really good. As expected of Hero-san. Then, let's try tomorrow, and take out 5 taels of silver as a bonus. No, these 5 taels of silver are not enough to explode. Sun Lang touched his chin and laughed. "Let's just get 100 taels of silver." 100 taels. Zhang Jinyuan gasped. This seems a bit too much." "Silly again, aren't you?" Sun Lang raised his eyebrows. "There are so many people in your embroidery hall. Just randomly pick 2 of them to put on some makeup and dress up. When the time comes, you'll be the first to respond and accept this challenge. You'll get the biggest bonus. Then, wouldn't this sum of money be spent with your left hand and received with your right hand? What? Could it be that you're still hoping for someone to take the lead?" Idiot, idiot. In order to do marketing, you have to find a good actor first. Zhang Jianyuan sucked in a breath of cold air again. It was as if he saw the door to a new world slowly open in front of him. Doesn't this mean that I didn't spend a single cent? Of course, as a black-hearted capitalist, your compulsory course is how to reduce costs and increase profits. Efficiency is the most important. Sun Lang counted on his fingers. Although it's easy to say, it's not easy to do. For example, the two actors you find have to have good acting skills. They have to learn how to read people's expressions and act more realistically. Then, in addition to these two actors, you also have to place a few actors in the crowd. They'll be responsible for creating a commotion and stirring up the audience's emotions. In addition, if you want to rely on word of mouth to spread the advertisement, it's a bit unreliable. As a black-hearted capitalist, you have to learn how to add fuel to the fire. For example, find some good talkers in the city's restaurants, casinos, and tea houses to tell the story of the stinky tofu challenge. Let the entire Mingzhou city know about it. Zhang Jianyuan nodded repeatedly as he listened. His face lit up with joy, and he scratched his ears and cheeks. He could vaguely feel that the things Hiro-san was talking about were actually profound knowledge. If he could understand them thoroughly, he would definitely be able to use them in countless ways. He could even become as rich as a country. No matter what business he did, he would be successful. He begged, Hiro-san, please say more. Please say more. Amitba. These things are enough for you to study for a while. Saying more will only make things worse. Sun Lang smiled gently. What you need to do now is to make a name for yourself, then hire workers and expand production. After a while, when stinky tofu becomes popular in Mingzhou City, you'll have to face competition and imitation in the same industry. When that time comes, I'll teach you another compulsory lesson as a black-hearted capitalist, which is how to compete gracefully with your competitors in business. Zhang Jianyuan was overjoyed. For a moment, his mind was filled with wonderful ideas. In an instant, he felt as if he had touched upon a new realm that he had never reached before. After a moment, he took a deep breath and bowed deeply to Sun Lang. Hiro-san, I will never forget your kindness in giving me a new lease of life. Sun Lang nodded as if he was a promising child. It seems that you've found the belief that you want to strive for your whole life. I'll have to ask for more guidance from Hiro-san. Zhang Jianyuan smiled humbly. Then, he suddenly realized something. But why are you here, Hiro-san? Oh, it's like this. Sun Lang said with a smile. I've submitted my resignation to the Rangers Guild. I plan to do it alone, so I want to transform this winery building into an office. I didn't expect that Mr. Zhang would also take a fancy to this treasure land. I see. It's a capital offense. A capital offense. Zhang Jianyuan patted his head and immediately said, I almost offended Hiro-san's wife. It's a capital offense. When Sun Lang heard this, a hearty smile immediately appeared on his face. He patted Zhang Jianyuan's shoulder and said, Old Zhang, you really know how to talk. You really know how to talk. All right, since the misunderstanding has been resolved, there's nothing else. Then I'll take my leave. I'll go back and make a careful plan to make stinky tofu a hit in Mingzhou City. Zhang Jianyuan handed the food box to a subordinate next to him and bowed with cupped fists. I have some connections in Mingzhou City. Hiro-san's shop is opening. If you need anything from the embroidery hall, just let me know. I'll definitely come to congratulate you on the opening day. Then, we'll take our leave. Sun Lang smiled and cupped his hands. Take care. Zhang Yinluo suddenly said, Wait a minute. Zhang Jianyuan's body trembled slightly, and he said with a stiff expression, Heroine Zhang, what can I do for you? The girl stared at Zhang Jianyuan suspiciously and asked abruptly, This immortal fishing building. There are no demons, right? Big Incense head blinked. Monster? What demons? That's good. Zhang Yinluo was relieved. Seeing the suspicion on the girl's face, he immediately explained, I'm just asking. I heard that someone is spreading rumors that there are demons and ghosts haunting this place and disturbing the civilians. It's really abominable. If you ask me, How can there be demons and ghosts in this world? They are all bad guys who use demons and ghosts to confuse people. Humph! If I meet such people, I'll beat them up. So that's how it is, that's how it is. Zhang Jinyuan thought to himself. What a mess, but he wouldn't dare to say it out loud, even if he was beaten to death. He called out to his henchmen, and the group of people left in a hurry. After walking for a while, he could still hear the voice behind him. It was the female devil's slightly proud voice. I knew it. Where did the demons come from? Where did the demons come from? He shook his head. This heroine Zhang was really... Alas, Hero's son had to suffer from this violent and horrible woman every day. He sighed again as he recalled the little things that happened between him and Swordsman Sunday. This young ranger was indeed kind-hearted. Not only did he save Qin Yu, but he had also been helping him to start his own business. This kindness was really something that he could not repay. He looked around and slowly said, Swordsman's son is really a good person. The subordinates looked strange and turned their heads to the side. At this time, a middle-aged Taoist priest with a long beard and a Taoist banner came in a hurry. As he walked, he muttered, Alas, the owner of this immortal fishing house is really unreasonable. There is obviously a lot of demon energy inside, but she just doesn't believe it. If this goes on, there will be chaos. No, I have to go and persuade her. Zhang Jinyuan was a martial artist, so he had good hearing and eyes. He heard the Taoist priest's mutterings and shouted, Taoist priest, please wait. The Taoist priest glanced at Zhang Jinyuan and didn't stop. He waved his hand and said, I'm sorry, I have something to do today, so I can't read your face. However, from your facial features and the changes in your complexion, it seems that you have been persuaded by a cunning person to do evil things recently. I advise you to keep yourself clean, be careful with your words and actions, and always be kind in your heart. Hey, you Taoist priest, I wanted to save your life, but you dare to speak ill of me? Zhang Jinyuan was not happy. You said that there is a demon in the immortal fishing house. I advise you to stop. There is no demon, but there is a female devil. She just said that if someone spreads rumors and uses the excuse of demons to cause trouble, she will beat up whoever she sees. Aren't you asking for trouble by coming here to show off? Listen to me, go. Otherwise, the lightest result will be a mouth full of shit. Chapter 100. Zhang Jinyuan was in a particularly good mood today. For the first time, he had something he liked to do, and he also had a lifelong mentor. These two joys overlapped, making everything pleasing to his eyes. Therefore, when he met a Taoist who was hurrying to the immortal fishing house, he stopped him with a pleasant expression. Just take it as doing a good deed. What are you doing, old Taoist? You said you were going to subdue demons. Are there demons in the immortal fishing house? Not to mention whether you are deliberately mystifying things. Even if there are demons, they will most likely be torn to pieces and dipped in sauce and eaten by that demoness. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and you are making a scene here. If you provoke that heroine Zhang, how can you still be alive? Thinking of this, Zhang Jinyuan sighed. He took out a piece of broken silver and put it in the Taoist's hand. He patted him on the shoulder and said, Taoist, listen to me. It's not easy for you to cultivate. Why do you want to die? Take this money and go back quickly. There are many rich people in Mingzhou City, and many of them are muddle-headed. You can cheat anywhere, but why do you want to die in the immortal fishing house? Let's go. The Taoist weighed the silver in his hand and looked at Zhang Jinyuan. Yes, there are indeed many muddle-headed people. I think you are also a little muddle-headed. Fine, you're kind by nature and have an affinity with me. Today, I will wait for you for a while and help you solve your problems. Let me ask you, have you seen a man who is good at talking and pretending to be a gentleman recently? Is he instigating you to do something? What the F***CK? You, this bullnose, actually kicked your nose in the face and entangled me? Zhang Jinyuan frowned and waved his hand. No, Taoist, don't try to trick me. I'm not easy to fool. Unexpectedly, the Taoist priest didn't give up and said, I took the money, so I have to do something. Benefactor, you're seriously ill. Answer my question seriously. Do you think you've met your destined benefactor recently? Have you been taken advantage of by this benefactor before? Then something happened that made you think he is actually a good person? Zhang Jianyuan blinked and thought about it. When he came back to his senses, his expression changed. Shut up, shameless old thief. Watch your mouth. Don't drag Hero-san into this. Hero-san? The Taoist expression changed as he waved his hand towards Zhang Jianyuan. It seems that the problem lies with him. Come, describe his face to me and tell me what happened between you two. Cut the crap. Zhang Jianyuan shouted coldly. Taoist priest, stop pestering me. Quickly retreat. Hero-san is my great benefactor. If you slander him, don't blame me for being ruthless. Benefactor, you're so unreasonable. You're the one who's been pestering me, and now you're blaming me for pestering you? The Taoist priest shook his head and said, If I hadn't taken your money, I wouldn't have bothered with you. You don't believe me, right? Come, let's find a place to sit down. I'll read your fortunes, and you'll know if I'm lying or not. So, Zhang Jianyuan sighed and waved his hand. Call him. The lackeys following behind him had a bad start today and were rather dejected. At this time, they were also suppressing a bellyful of anger. Hearing the big incense head's order, they loosened their muscles and surrounded him with unkind expressions. What are you doing? What do you want to do? This Taoist priest who looked like an immortal exclaimed, Io, you ungrateful person. Wu Yang, who kicked this Taoist's butt. Stop hitting me. Stop hitting me. Okay. I'll return the money to you. I'll leave you alone, okay? I'll go to the immortal fishing pavilion. You can go wherever you want. I'm going to catch demons. UF Asterisk King's stinky cow nose. Catch demons? You're just trying to cheat money. Zhang Jianyuan grinned hideously. Racking your brains, spouting nonsense, playing tricks, and exhausting your mental and physical strength. How much money can you cheat in a religious ceremony? If you're seen through, you'll be beaten. If you don't act well, you'll be despised. Why do you have to do such a hard job? Come on, I'll be merciful today and provide you with a good job. Other things aside, you'll definitely be able to eat your fill. If you act well, I'll even give you some money. Is there such a good thing? Your smile is malicious, and your face. Huh? The Taoist priest widened his eyes. You're not lying? Of course. Zhang Jianyuan laughed heartily. Old Zhang never lie. Cow nose, let's go. Hey, wait, my banner. Don't drag me away. I haven't agreed yet. I still have things to do. There are demons in the immortal fishing pavilion. There's a monster. You're a Tao ancestor. Believe me? Yes. Tell me. Zhang Yinluo put his hands on his hips and said loudly, In this world, there are no demons. How can there be demons? She glared at Sun Lang and the girls fiercely. All the rumors about demons are just bad people trying to mystify us. They're malicious. They're trying to scare others. They're too hateful. Zhao Fei Huang showed a gloomy expression and said in a low voice, The moon is dark, the wind is strong, and the night is quiet. The girl who never believed in the rumors of demons, after visiting a restaurant that is said to be haunted by demons, she inexplicably lost sleep. She felt that tonight was unusually quiet, and there was not a trace of sound around her. She still maintained the sleeping habits she had when she was young. When she felt afraid, she would pull the quilt over her head and curl up in it. She thought that this would give her a sense of security, and that she could sleep smoothly until dawn. But tonight, everything is different. Outside the window, a white shadow suddenly appeared and crossed the window. Zhang Yinluo angrily said, Shut up. You want to scare me? No way. Who would hide in the quilt and sleep? I'm not a child. There are no demons in this world. Dongfang Xin held her chin and stared at Zhang Yinluo's chest. Then how did you grow so big here? How would I know such a thing? It's not something I can control. Zhang Yinluo's face was red with shame. She shouted at Sun Lang, who was sitting in a daze. Say something. The ranger was stunned for a moment, and then he looked moved. Zhang Jianyuan, you've grown up. From a young man who fell in love with canned herring, you're gradually becoming a cold-blooded and ruthless capitalist who oppresses workers, manipulates the market, and affects the country. A ghost of capitalism, hovering over the empire. You still have the face to say that. Whose fault is it that he's become like this? Zhang Yinluo loudly ridiculed. I forgot to ask you. What terrible things did you teach him? Whether it's stinky tofu or finding someone to spread the news, have you done these things before? How many times have you done it? Sun Lang waved his hand. Well, don't worry about such small details. However, I suddenly thought of a problem. His expression became playful. Dongfang Xin said that among the people who came to find her, someone said that there were demons in the immortal fishing house. I thought it was Zhang Jianyuan who was playing tricks, but when I asked him just now, he knew nothing about it. In other words, this rumor was not released by him. This means that there are two possibilities. First, there are others who are coveting this restaurant. Second, he smiled faintly at Zhang Yinluo, and his tone instantly became gloomy. There really is a monster in this restaurant. Wow, what? Zhang Yinluo instantly showed a look of panic. This expression disappeared in a flash and was replaced by heroine Zhang's arrogant cry. How can there be demons in this world? Are you a 3-year-old child? That must be a rumor released by another bastard who wants to buy this restaurant. It's not credible. It's not credible. It's great that you can think like this. Sun Lang nodded. So, it's okay to stay here tonight and observe, right? Huh? Chapter 101. The sun was setting in the west, and it was close to dusk. Zhang Yinluo patted the dust off her hands and used her sleeve to wipe the sweat off her forehead. She stretched, and the peaks on her chest unreasonably emphasized her presence, attracting the secret glances of the other girls. She was completely unaware of this and turned her head to say to Sun Lang with a smile, "This kind of medicine is actually quite useful. It actually dispelled the stench of the canned herring so easily." The ranger smiled proudly. That's right. The most important thing about a mature and successful weapon is not its power, but whether or not it can be used. When this uncle discovered the potential of the canned herring, I began to research the antidote. But I've never seen you take it out, whether it's at Embroidery Hall, my family, or even Marquis Jing'an's foo. You really have a bad taste. Zhang Yinluo rolled her eyes at Sun Lang, then put the small porcelain bottle in her hand in her pocket. It's mine now. The smell of the garden at home still hasn't dissipated. She patted her small satchel, turned around, and took a deep breath. After an entire afternoon of work, the mysterious smell of the immortal fishing house had finally dissipated. The stains had also been wiped clean. The cleaning work had been completed. This place would become her future residence, the place where she would work, and the place where she would work hard. She would seek the answer she wanted here. So good. She smiled slightly. Everyone cleaned up this place together, and they would also redesign this place together, renovate it, and transform it into a firm that everyone was satisfied with. This gave people a sense of belonging and satisfaction from starting from scratch. Under the hard work and effort of working together, some of the previous grudges and unhappiness would also disappear. Everyone, perhaps they could become very, very good friends and partners. Then, let's call it a day. Tomorrow, we'll come back to study, plan, and design again. Then we'll invite a craftsman to come over and renovate. She revealed a happy smile and waved to everyone. Then, I'll be leaving first. See you all tomorrow. The girl's face was innocent and unaffected, but under that youthful and beautiful smile of a young girl, there was an extremely deep scheme. Very good, very good. I'll take this opportunity to slip away as if nothing happened. But the next moment, the doors suddenly darkened as a figure blocked the light from the setting sun. Sun Lang laughed heartily. Young lady, where are you going? Zhang Yinluo's smile stiffened, and his eyes drifted. That right? Look, it's getting late. I'm going home. Otherwise, father and mother will be worried. Our family's upbringing is very strict. I have to go home tonight. It's all right. Zhao Feihuang leisurely walked closer and pursed his lips into a smile. You only need to send someone to deliver a letter and inform them that tonight, Yinluo Mimi will accompany them for a candlelight talk. I believe that your esteemed father will give Marquis Jing'an Fu this face. Heroine Zhang played dumb. How can I accept that? Forget it. I'll go back now and make it in time for dinner. You don't have to send someone to deliver the letter." Eldest young Miss Zhao blinked and said innocently, "It was already delivered in the afternoon. Your father has already agreed." Zhang Yinluo almost couldn't catch his breath. "Little slut, you schemed against me." Facing the other party's accusing and angry gaze, Zhao Feihuang nonchalantly turned his head to the side. Seeing her like this, Zhang Yinluo couldn't help but get angry. "Are you very idle? Don't you need to handle the affairs of Marquis Jinggan Fu? You and housekeeper Su both have nothing to do here. Is there really no problem?" Zhao Feihuang smiled faintly. Other than older sister Su, the Marquis Fu also has a few external housekeepers. The daily affairs and arrangements can be handed over to them. When I sent someone to deliver the letter to your father in the afternoon, I also sent someone back to the Marquis Fu to have them record the daily affairs into a book for me to review. At the same time, I also sent over some bedding and bedding. They're all expensive and won't disgrace you, young Miss Zhang. So, you can stay here with peace of mind." Heroine Zhang stomped her feet and said, "Peace of mind your head. You have arranged everything in such detail. No matter how you look at it, it seems like you have planned this beforehand. How can I be at ease?" Dongfang Xian skipped over from the other side. Her short skirt lightly fluttered, and a pair of slender and beautiful thighs were faintly discernible under her skirt. The girl said nonchalantly, "I don't know what you are worried about. Isn't it just staying here for a night? I have stayed here for a few days, and nothing has happened. I don't know what you are afraid of. Could it be that you are really afraid of monsters? Were you just trying to be brave? Hmm. If that's the case, just admit defeat and say something like, 'Older sister Dongfang, I am afraid of monsters, and I will.'" Zhang Yinluo roared angrily. "Don't even think about it. Who is afraid of monsters? I'm not afraid." Sun Lang nodded and said, "Then there shouldn't be a problem, right? I just took a look. A few of the heaven guest rooms have been cleaned up by the maids from the house of the Marquis in the afternoon. They have also changed into new bedding. In other words, there is no problem with the place to sleep. And Miss Zhao also sent someone to your house in the afternoon to deliver a letter, so you don't have to worry about your family being anxious because of this. And now, you're not afraid of monsters, so?" He smiled slightly. "Why don't you want to stay here for a night?" Zhang Yinluo was tongue-tied. She faintly felt that she had been tricked again. She wanted to admit defeat, but looking at the smiling expressions of these people, she couldn't bring herself to do so. Moreover, a ranger with a vile character, a twisted view of the world, and an extremely evil taste. The young miss of the house of the Marquis, who was cunning and scheming. There was also a bad girl who used a shameless weapon, wore a shameless skirt and socks, and had an extremely violent personality. In other words, among the people present, other than Steward Su, who was slightly reliable, everyone else was a scoundrel. How could he admit defeat to this group of people? Absolutely, he would definitely be mocked. Zhang Yinluo gritted her teeth and steeled her heart. What was there to be afraid of? I don't believe that there are monsters in this world. At most, I will sleep with my head covered tonight. Or, I might as well just turn on the light and meditate for the whole night. Thinking of this, she put her hands on her waist and looked at the group of scum in front of her as if she was looking at trash. She said coldly, "Humph, you guys are so boring. Forget it. I'll stay here for the night. I'll go choose a room." Looking at the back of Heroine Zhang, who hurried away, Sun Lang, Zhao Feihuang, and Dongfang Xian looked at each other. The three of them laughed at the same time and then followed. Su Qingwan looked at the three of them with a strange and helpless expression. Then, she looked at Zhang Yinluo's back and sighed silently. "Ms. Zhang, you must want to find a good room suitable for defense, and then meditate for the whole night with the light on. Even I can think of this. How can Miss and Mr. Sun not think of it? Good luck to you." When the three of them were cleaning in the afternoon, they got together and discussed for a while. Chapter 102. In fact, Zhang Yinluo had already faintly guessed that with the temperament of those bastards, even if there were no monsters here, they would still make some noise. However, she did not expect that the trick would come so quickly. She came to the guest room area in the backyard of the restaurant. Although it was called the guest room area, because of the decline in performance in the past 2 years, the number of people who came to stay in the restaurant had decreased. So they simply canceled the business of staying in the restaurant and completely transformed the entire backyard into the logistics of the restaurant. Some of the rooms were changed into Jinxing's warehouse, woodshed, and stable, while the best location and environment of the Heaven Room were used as the residence of the boss and the employees. The east and west were facing each other, and there were two residences. She first observed them. The house on the east was a small courtyard, and the decorations were quite exquisite. There was also a small garden that was taken care of quite well, and it was very stylish. On the west side, there were 3 rooms together, and it was probably the residence of the restaurant staff, such as the chef, waiter, and servants. In other words, there were a total of 4 independent rooms, 1 on one side and 3 on the other. So, it was self-evident where she would stay tonight. She turned her gaze to the middle room of the 3 rooms. Good. Zhao Feihuang was spoiled since she was young, so she would definitely sleep in the best room with her big sister Sue. So, let's go to the small courtyard over there. This young lady's family style is strict, and her life is simple, so I will reluctantly stay in this room. In that case, the ones living next door should be Sun Lang and Dongfang Xian. Sun Lang, that guy. Although he seemed to be fearless and had a way of dealing with people, but the more he was like this, the more likely he would have a fatal weakness. So, he might really be afraid of monsters. And Dongfang Xian, although she was fierce and unreasonable and liked to use that shameless weapon, she should be a little brat in essence. If it was a little brat, she would definitely be afraid of monsters, and she would also be very stubborn. She was clearly scared to death, but she still pretended that she was not afraid of monsters at all. Then it's decided. Let this young lady turn into a bright light in the silent and dark night, illuminating your fearful and timid hearts. She raised her head, revealing a wise smile, and pointed to the room in the middle. I'll stay tonight. I'll stay here tonight. At some point, Sun Lang was already standing in front of the door of the middle room. He nodded and said, After all, I'm very afraid of monsters. If there are people living on both sides, I'll feel safer. Huh. TSK. Look at your useless appearance. Forget it. This young lady will be merciful and live next door to you to protect you. Harrow and Zhang's gaze turned to the other side, but Zhao Feihuang took a step forward and chuckled. Then Sister Sue and I will live next door to Sun Lang. If there really is a monster, you have to protect me. TSK, another coward. Does that mean I have to protect 2 people? Then I'll live on the other side. With a creak, Dongfang Xian pushed open the door to the right and walked in. Wait a minute. If all 3 rooms are occupied, that means I can only stay on the other side? Moreover, he was alone. Wait. Zhang Yinluo was shocked and suddenly realized that something was wrong. She shouted, You did it on purpose, didn't you? You did it on purpose, didn't you? The 3 of them turned around at the same time and put on an innocent look, as if they didn't know what she was talking about. Sun Lang blinked his eyes and asked, Is there a problem? There's a big problem. Zhang Yinluo screamed. If the 3 of you occupy all the rooms, where am I going to live? You really don't know what's good for you. Zhao Feihuang frowned and said softly, The 3 of us chose such an ordinary room and gave the best independent courtyard to you. You don't have to be so considerate in this kind of place. Don't tease me, don't scheme against me, be more sincere, and I'll be very happy. Zhang Yinluo shouted. As the eldest miss, you should live where the eldest miss should live. That courtyard just so happens to be able to set off your noble status. So you can live there with your big sister Sue. Zhao Feihuang revealed a timid expression. No way. I'm very afraid of demons. Big sister Sue is also very afraid. So I want to live next door to Sun Lang. He will protect me. Zhang Yinluo then looked at Dongfang Xian. To be honest, you're the owner of this restaurant, right? As the owner of this place, shouldn't you live in that room? Dongfang Xian expressionlessly pointed to his room. After I bought this restaurant 3 days ago, I lived in this room. Do you want me to move out? What a reasonable and convincing rejection. In the end, Zhang Nu looked at Sun Lang, who had been watching the show, with a slightly gloomy gaze. The ranger opened his arms with a gentle and tolerant expression. Come, Yin Luo. If you're afraid, then live here with me. You want. Oh, no. Want. Zhang Yinluo gritted his teeth and said, You shameless bastard. You actually live next door to two young girls. According to normal circumstances, shouldn't we girls live together, and you stinking man live over there? Hey, you two, what if this guy turns into a beast and attacks you at night? Zhao Feihuang covered his face and said shyly, That kind of thing. Ah, this little girl has the appearance of a willow. To be able to enter Sun Lang's eyes, it is truly an honor. Dongfang Xen, on the other hand, said carelessly, Although Sun Lang is a bit perverted as a man, it is understandable. However, he is not that kind of low-level pervert. I can confirm this point. Sun Lang shrugged his shoulders. Did you see that? I am a gentleman. If I was that kind of person, the two of them would have already become ghosts under my crotch. Do you believe it or not? Zhang Yinluo gritted her teeth as she looked at the three shameless cheese who were so thick-skinned that even swords and spears could not penetrate their skin. She was almost certain that these three bastards were up to no good. Tonight, they would definitely make a big news. They must have already discussed it. These three guys with warm smiles seemed to be emitting traces of black gas. Countless schemes, routines, and calculations were pressing down on her. However, the corner of her mouth slightly revealed a cold smile. You probably want to pretend to be monsters to scare me. However, if you have this kind of plan, it's equivalent to telling me that there are no monsters at all. It's all fake, and it's all your disguises. Since that's the case, there's nothing to be afraid of. Since you guys are up to no good, don't blame me for being ruthless. She glared fiercely at Sun Lang and the others, turned around and walked towards the small courtyard. Humph, a bunch of idiots, not staying in such a good room, Sun Lang shouted from behind. Come out for dinner later. It's still early. What should we do tonight? Why don't we have a ghost story meeting? For example, in the dead of night, a hand suddenly reaches out from the void, grabs your head, and uses a low voice to ask you to guess her age. If you guess wrong, you will be called an indescribable old witch. Zhang Yinluo rolled her eyes and quickened her steps. When she arrived at the small courtyard, she did not know why, but she felt that the air was a bit cold. But it's okay. It's all in her mind. Something was endlessly giving her extraordinary courage. She pushed open the door and began to observe the layout of the room. Then, she took out the things from her satchel. A few packs of special low explosive that she carefully mixed last night, 2 cans of herring that she got from Sun Lang not long ago, and some other small items. In Zhang Yinluo's eyes, these things exuded endless possibilities. Trying to scare me? A cold smile appeared on the girl's lips. Tonight, I'll let you know my power. Chapter 103. Night fell, and the night wind howled. Huaqing Square was no longer a bustling city. After nightfall, the streets were sparsely populated. Diners had all flocked to big restaurants like the Three Moons Restaurant and the New Sun Restaurant, where business was booming. They listened to music and books, drank wine, and ate meat, and spent the night away. Meanwhile, the shops in the remote and deserted streets had closed early. This was probably the night view of Mingzhou City. The livelier it got, the more deserted it got. In this quiet atmosphere, it was the best time to tell stories. The door of the Fishing Immortal house was locked, and only 2 candles were lit in the lobby. The fire only illuminated a small area. In the corner of a large lobby, the light was flickering. Sun Lang sat at the head of the table beside a big table, looking around at the girls present. He put his elbows on the table, crossed his hands, and covered his chin. He said expressionlessly, Today, I will tell you the story of a man who has lived for a long time and whose name must not be mentioned. He has already disappeared from the public eye for quite a long time. Many people thought that he was dead, but he would always reappear. He was once guided and taught by an elder with the surname Deng. When people talk about him, they can't help but think of a cold-blooded animal. that has almost become his symbol. It is said that in order to prolong his life, he did not hesitate to take the lives of others. His name has become a taboo. Ordinary people can't even call him by his name. They can only use some strange but familiar pronouns. He is Tom Marvolo Liddell. People call him Voldemort. Oh no, Voldemort. Sun Lang's voice was low and gloomy. Although no one understood what he was saying, they could still feel a trace of strangeness and coldness because of the surrounding environment and his tone. The ranger's eyes turned to one of the girls and said in a low voice, "Today, we will tell you his story, his destiny, and his curse. There is a prophecy that he and a girl with big breasts cannot coexist in this world. One must die in the hands of the other, and that girl's name is Harry Potter." Zhang Yinluo raised her eyebrows and slammed the table. "What do you mean? Are you deliberately looking for trouble?" Sun Lang was dumbfounded. He blinked and said, "Huh? What's wrong? What's wrong? How did I offend you this time?" Zhao Fei Huang, on the other hand, had a tacit understanding with the ranger. She spat and snorted. Some people really think they're infallible. Saying that they have big breasts is an illusion to you? Could it be that you think there's no one in this world with bigger breasts than you? The ranger sighed faintly and said, "I'll be able to climb to the top and look down on all the other mountains. You guys are really boring." Zhang Yinluo said angrily, "I don't want to listen to you anymore. I don't want to stay with a bad guy who always thinks about how to make fun of me. I want to go back to my room." Finished speaking, Hero and Zhang turned around and walked towards the backyard. Sun Lang, who wished for the world to be in chaos, shouted from behind, "Hey, hey, hey, are you going to sleep? Then be careful. If you meet a woman wearing a red coat and a mask, remember to say that she's not beautiful. When you go to the bathroom at night, remember to put 2 candles next to the mirror and shout Bloody Mary 3 times." Zhang Yinluo turned a deaf ear to him and left the hall. Then, her footsteps became faster and faster. Then, she began to run. In an instant, she rushed past the small path from the front building to the backyard and rushed to the small courtyard. She pushed the door open and entered the room. She held the Jinghong sword in her hand the whole time. The Imperial Army has extraordinary power. They must have a magical power that can ward off evil and repel demons. With this thought, she closed the door and pulled out her sword. She activated the Imperial Army's Tao rhyme of the Jinghong sword and walked around the room. First, under the bed. Very good. It's very clean. No matter if it's the bedboard or under the bed, there's nothing dirty lying there. Then, she opened the cabinet and stabbed it a few times. There's no problem at all. There's nothing dirty hiding in it. On the beam, behind the curtain, she knocked on the wall. There's no interlayer, no holes. Very good. Everything is normal. Very normal. She heaved a long sigh of relief. Then, she took out a large number of candles that she found in the storeroom from her satchel. Well, these candles were enough to light up the room for a whole night. So, she said, "How can there be demons in this world? How can there be?" Zhang Yinluo put her hands on her waist and said angrily, "I've already said that the so-called demons and evil spirits are all evil people's doing." Then, she still couldn't let down her guard. But now, the enemy had changed from the so-called demons and evil spirits to people with bad intentions. Zhang Yinluo put the Jinghong sword on the table. Then, she took out 2 canned herring that had been successfully modified. She looked at the layout of the room again. This bedroom, 1 door and 1 window, just 2 canned herring. She must punish the big villain who pretended to be a ghost and scared innocent girls with justice. Well, first of all, she must install one at the door. Then here, looking at the canned herring mechanism installed outside the bedroom door, Zhang Yinluo clapped her hands and felt very satisfied. She went back to the room and closed the bedroom door. Then, she played with the remaining canned herring. How should she place this thing? That guy Sun Lang's martial arts seems to be pretty good, and his Qigong is also very strange. The mechanism I set up might not be able to take him down. Sai, this thing is just a passive defensive trap. If he sneaks in quietly, I probably won't be able to detect him. Alas, is there anything convenient that can warn him that I'm approaching? Like the Jinghong sword, which is shining, flashing light? Zhang Yinluo blinked. Suddenly, she found that the imperial army that she had placed on the table was trembling slightly and emitting a faint light. Eh? What's going on? Why is the imperial army glowing? Heroine Zhang was a little confused. She picked up the Jinghong sword. The imperial army was a weapon with a spirit. After a period of practice, she had developed a certain degree of connection with the imperial army. Then, Zhang Yinluo felt a chill coming from behind her. At the same time, her instincts and divine sense as a martial artist also warned her, no, it can't be. In an instant, her eyes widened. Then, she heard a dry and cold voice behind her. Found it. Found it. Give it to me. Give it to me. With a sonorous sound, the imperial army was unsheathed. Zhang Yinluo slashed in a semicircle and retreated quickly. She held the sword to protect herself and looked behind her. Then, monster! Ah! Sun Lang and the others who were chatting and laughing in the front hall of the hotel suddenly stood up. They all saw the shock on each other's faces. Sun Lang's expression changed. He rushed to the backyard and said, "Hurry up and follow." Su Qingwan reacted quickly. She hugged Zhao Fei Huang and rushed out with Sun Lang. Dongfang Xin picked up her spear and followed behind. No matter what happened, they must not be separated. In a short while, they had already arrived at the small courtyard where Zhang Yinluo stayed. It was brightly lit, and countless candles were lit. Sun Lang kicked open the main door and saw that the bedroom was tightly shut. He was stunned. Su Qingwan put Zhao Fei Huang down. Seeing that Sun Lang was standing still, she asked, "What's wrong? Why aren't you going in?" Miss Zhang, what's wrong?" Zhang Yinluo's voice, which was about to cry, came from inside. "Monster! There really is a monster. Where's Sun Lang? Where's Sun Lang? Are you real or fake? Answer a few of my questions first." Su Qingwan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She stepped forward and was about to open the door. "Wait!" Sun Lang suddenly shouted, stopping Su Qingwan. Looking at the questioning gazes of the few people, he rubbed his chin and smiled proudly. "Humph, naive, too naive. Zhang Yinluo, do you think you can fool me like this? I admit that your acting skills are very good, and your shout just now was very real. You almost fooled me, but you're still too young. You want to scheme against me with just you?" Zhang Yinluo shouted from inside. "You're still talking nonsense at a time like this. How'd I want to scheme against you? You still dare to quibble?" Sun Lang snorted. "What kind of monster are you talking about? Your startling sword may be a mass-produced product, but it's still an emperor weapon. It's imbued with spiritual energy, so normal monsters won't be able to invade it. Otherwise, why would I allow you to run around? Didn't you just want to pretend to be scared by the monster, lure us to open the door, and then scheme against us? You're still quibbling. Damn it, what's that kind of herring you're hanging on the door for? You're so vicious." Chapter 104. A moment later, Sun Lang had already taken down the herring broadsword that was hanging on the door. This thing was mainly composed of canned herring, low-explosive gunpowder, and an activation device. Sun Lang looked at the bottom of the canned herring, and there were 4 beautiful words written on it with an eyebrow pencil. "This is the enemy. You seem to be very good at doing this kind of thing." A few girls came forward and looked at the thing in Sun Lang's hand. Their expressions all changed. They could be said to be victims of this thing. That day, young Miss Zhao and housekeeper Su were in the Marquis' mansion. They had witnessed the flying formation of the 6 consecutive explosions of canned herring. Although they did not get stuck to their bodies, they were still extremely disgusted. After the incident, they called in 5 water hoses and splashed them for half a day before they were barely able to clean it off. The stewards of the outer mansion were currently considering whether or not they should refurbish the affected areas. Dongfang Xin, on the other hand, thought of something and excitedly reached out his hand. "This is it. Can you give it to me? Can you give it to me? This is a necessary material to upgrade my super weapon." Sun Lang dodged Dongfang Xion's hand as if nothing had happened and said in a low voice, "Stop messing around. Let's talk about business first." "Oh no, let's talk about business first." Dongfang Xion was stunned for a moment. then nodded his head in understanding. He curled his lips and snorted. To actually put this in front of the door, to actually trick us, to actually set up such a trap, to actually use our kindness, Zhao Feihuang sighed and said softly, I didn't expect you to be such a Zhang Yinluo. Your schemes are so deep. No wonder your breasts are so big. Sun Lang nodded his head and concluded, That's why I said drawing a tiger's skin is difficult. Drawing a bone is difficult. Knowing a person's milk is not knowing their heart. A moment later, Zhang Yinluo's depressed voice came from inside. To be able to say such words, and to not forget to slander me at all times, it seems like you guys are indeed the real deal. She said carefully, You all. Wait a moment. I'm in the corner right now. I'll slowly move out. Thank you, but there's no need. You can slowly play inside by yourself. Don't act anymore. Sun Lang said straightforwardly. Oh, I've helped you put your herring broadsword back. Don't go out casually. Wait a minute. Zhang Yinluo panicked. There really is a monster. I didn't lie to you. Hey, don't go. I really didn't lie to you. Don't leave me behind. Dongfang Xian yawned and shook his head. How can there be any demons in this world? All of them are bad people who use ghosts and monsters to confuse people. Zhao Feihuang nodded and said, That's right. All the rumors about demons are just bad people deliberately mystifying things, harboring evil intentions, trying to scare others. How despicable. Sun Lang stretched. I don't want to stay with a bad guy who thinks about how to play tricks on me all day. I want to go back to my room. You, Zhang Yinluo shouted. You only know how to bully me. I really don't understand why you guys are always bullying me. Huh? Why? Can you not leave? I really didn't lie to you. Hey, there really is a monster. Sun Lang, don't go. She shouted a few times from inside, but there was no sound from outside. The sound of footsteps slowly faded away. It seemed that these heartless guys had indeed gone far away. For a moment, she was anxious, angry, and scared. She wanted to rush out of the door, but there was a can of herring hanging high outside. It was really a difficult choice to make whether she was going to die or go to shit. She bit her lip and said in a trembling voice, You're teasing me again, right? You bad guy. Why don't you believe me? There really is a monster. The girl's heart was filled with fear and helplessness. If it wasn't for her strong personality and being a warrior, she would have cried by now. Just as she was at a loss, the door was quietly pushed open. Sun Lang poked his head out and looked around the room. Finally, he found Zhang Yinluo hiding in the corner. He blinked his eyes and couldn't help but laugh out loud. If one had to use the shortest words to describe Zhang Yinluo's current state, Yinluo version of fear. JPG, a high-definition remake of The Big-Breasted Beautiful Girl. At this moment, Zhang Yinluo hugged the startled sword with both hands and curled up in the corner like a small animal. There were tears in the corners of her eyes, and her expression was helpless and timid. That pitiful look of constantly encouraging herself but still being afraid, coupled with the girl's beautiful and voluptuous figure, really gave people the urge to tie her up and have sex with her. Zhang Yinluo also discovered Sun Lang. Her eyes flashed with a hint of surprise, but she seemed to be worried about something. She said in a trembling voice, Are you a monster or the real Sun Lang? Sun Lang wondered if he should pretend to be a monster to scare her. But when he saw the girl curled up in the corner with her legs pressed together, as if she was doing some kind of weird play, the ranger's soul of ridicule and gentlemanly heart couldn't help it. The ranger raised his eyebrows and glanced at the girl's lower body. Is it leaking? As soon as his voice fell, Zhang Yinluo rushed out like an arrow and plunged into Sun Lang's arms, hugging him tightly. There really is a monster. You bad guy. Why do you want to scare me? Why don't you believe me? Yeah. Why can she tell that I'm a real person when I asked her if she had leaked anything? Yeah. Am I such a person in your mind? As soon as this thought appeared, it was immediately thrown out of the window by the ranger. Because at this moment, he was immersed in a beautiful, dreamlike moment. The trust of a beautiful girl. The dependence of a beautiful girl. The embrace of a beautiful girl. If a four-word phrase was used to describe it. Huge uproar. Sun Lang's face immediately changed. I believe you, Luo. You said there's a monster. Then there must be a monster in this room. But don't be afraid. I'm here. You don't have to worry. You can hug me tighter, no matter how long it takes. Oh, damn, it feels so good. Zhang Yinluo was still in shock and didn't hear the ranger's words clearly. What? Sun Lang changed the topic as if nothing had happened. Right? You said you met a monster just now. What happened? A trace of panic flashed in the girl's eyes, and she explained in a low voice, from the abnormality of the Jinghong sword to the horrifying whispers and the scene she saw when she turned around, the abnormality of the Jinghong sword. Sun Lang's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but soon he smiled. Don't worry. Leave this to me. Isn't it just a monster? Watch me drag this guy out tonight and let you vent your anger. TSK, TSK, TSK. How long has it been since I met a monster? Oh, right. Sun Lang's expression suddenly froze. He thought of a very serious problem. Ever since he had the power of great health, he hadn't met a female monster. If female monsters didn't trigger the power of great health, what was with this subtle feeling that suddenly floated in his heart? Chapter 105. Monster, female monster, beautiful monster, cute and beautiful monster. Sun Lang couldn't help but fall in a deep thought. Facts had proven that the degree of development of civilization determined the extent of humanity's love. In ancient times, beating up a fox fairy or a snake demon was already the limit. And in the world where Sun Lang originally lived, ship demons. Demons transformed from swords and knives. An old witch who pretended to be a young girl. There were only things that he didn't dare to do. Being forced to be baptized by such thoughts, Sun Lang didn't have much resistance to the female monster under the influence of what he saw and heard. He also didn't have the kind of fear that humans had towards demons and ghosts. It was better to say that at this moment, while he was immersed in infinite reverie, a famous line from his childhood echoed in his mind. Monster, eat my stick. Eat. Awesome. Yeah. I didn't expect you to be such a monkey. At this time, Zhang Yinluo calmed down and found that she was hugging Sun Lang tightly. She blushed and quickly let go, but she was really afraid of the monster and didn't dare to retreat immediately. She still held Sun Lang's right hand tightly and looked around nervously. She glanced at the ranger's face and found a mixture of pity and reminiscence. She couldn't help but gnash her teeth. Why are you in a daze? Sun Lang smacked his lips and said, Don't you plan to hug for a while longer? Dirty. Zhang Yinluo glared at him fiercely. However, she was the one who was scared by the monster, and the one who took the initiative to jump into Sun Lang's arms was also her. Even if she wanted to flare up, she had no position or reason to do so. She remembered the embarrassment and humiliation tonight. As a woman, she couldn't help but be petty and hold a grudge. With Sun Lang by her side, she was more confident and energetic. What about the monster? Do you have a way to catch that monster? Today I must slay the monster. Before she finished speaking, Zhao Feihuang's laughter came from outside. You were so scared that you were about to cry, and you even took the opportunity to take advantage of my son Lang. I took advantage of him? He was so happy that he didn't even know what his surname was. Zhang Yinluo had lost so much face in front of Miss Zhao. Now that he had been hit while he was down, he was both ashamed and angry. However, what was done. If he continued to deny and refute, he would be ridiculed even more. Therefore, Heroine Zhang's head was hot, and she felt dizzy. She actually blurted out, I want to hug him, so I will. He was even willing to let me hug him. If you have the ability, why don't you come too? As soon as the words left her mouth, she immediately regretted it. Sure enough, Sun Lang turned his head and stared at her with a meaningful look. Zhao Feihuang, who was outside, also stopped talking. Zhang Nuxia faintly felt that she seemed to have been tricked again. Then she exploded. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? Zhang Yinluo grabbed Sun Lang's shoulder and shook him hard. I was scared by a monster. That monster wants to attack me. Aren't you my partner? Aren't you my boss? I was bullied by a monster. Why aren't you helping me? Hurry up and help me catch her. I want to drag her under the sun for 3 days. Ah! The girl's flustered and exasperated appearance hid a trace of embarrassment. Her eyes were still flickering with grievances and tears. It was really super cute, just like a young girl who needed protection. But this spirited young girl also had a hot body that was far beyond ordinary people. It was really double the cuteness. Sun Lang couldn't help but reach out and pat her head. He used a tone of coaxing a child and said, Okay, I'll help you catch the monster. Reality proved that although the power of great healthcare did not work on Zhang Yinluo, someone's technique was still commendable. Zhang Yinluo, who was comforted by the touch, instantly showed a very comfortable and relieved expression. Like a child, she subconsciously nodded obediently. Of course, the next moment she reacted and forcefully shook off Sun Lang's hand. She stomped her feet and said, "Don't touch a girl's head. I'm not a child." Sun Lang smiled and said, Let's go. Let's go outside and meet everyone. Then we'll make a plan to catch the monster." Zhang Yinluo looked at Sun Lang's right hand. For some reason, her heart was empty. She actually had the urge to continue holding his hand. She was shocked by her own thoughts. When she came back to her senses, Sun Lang had already walked to the door. Startled, she hurriedly trotted to follow him. When she went out, she found Zhao Fei Huang and Su Qingwan standing on one side. Miss Zhao rolled her eyes at her with a look of disdain that said, "You little bitch actually took advantage of the chaos to sneak away. Oomph, a jealous and suspicious woman. If you really marry Sun Lang, you will definitely suffer." At this time, Sun Lang looked around and wondered, "Hey, where's Dongfang Xian? Where did she go?" Su Qingwan replied, "Just now, in order to scare Miss Zhang, Miss Dongfang volunteered to simulate the sound of footsteps gradually fading away, so she ran to the front hall. She also said that there might really be a monster, so she wanted to change to a new spearhead. When she said this, her expression was a little apologetic. It was obvious that her attention had always been on Miss Zhao's safety. She didn't care about anything else, let alone accompanying Dongfang Xian. Sun Lang waved his hand. "It's fine. I've already raised my level of vigilance. Everything is under my control. Besides, even if there's a monster, that little demon is a weak chicken that can easily scare away a mass-produced item like the Jinghong sword. I reckon that she can't even do anything to a martial artist with vigorous blood energy and small achievements in internal energy. Dongfang Xian is addicted to novelty, heartless, and extremely courageous. Even if she meets a monster, she will still exchange a few blows with the other party, just in time to help us stall the monster." When Zhao Fei Huang heard this, he covered his mouth and said in surprise, "Then why is little sister Yin Luo, who is strong in martial arts and wields the Jinghong sword, able to let such a weak monster escape in the blink of an eye?" Zhang Yinluo roared, "You woman, you're taking advantage of the chaos to slander me again. No matter who it is, when they see a monster for the first time, they will be very scared. They will instinctively retreat and dodge." Just as he finished speaking, Dongfang Xian's surprised and excited shout came from the front hall. "Wow, so there really is a monster. Eat my spear. If my super weapon can even scare away a monster, then there is no weakness at all." The three of them looked at Zhang Yinluo in unison. Before they could say anything, Dongfang Xian's voice sounded again. This time, there was a trace of shock in her tone. Shame and anger? "Wah wah wah wah. What are you doing? Hey, let go. Don't lick it. Why don't you play by the rules? Stop it. Let go. Hey, hey. Oh, you bastard. Don't run. Stop." Sun Lang sucked in a breath of cold air and then instantly flew into a rage. "So, it's a perverted monster. He actually licked the white silk. I haven't licked it yet. Today, I must tear her into 10,000 pieces. This is simply unbearable." Just as he was about to rush to the front hall and light the sky lantern on that bull monster, a figure flashed, and Dongfang Xian's figure flashed out. The young girl anxiously looked left and right, her expression at a loss. For some reason, everyone felt that the current Dongfang Xian was a little strange, as if he had lost something very important. Dongfang Xian also saw Sun Lang. The young girl's eyes were instantly covered with a layer of mist. She pouted her mouth and said in an aggrieved manner, "Sun Lang, my penis." It was snatched away by a monster. Only now did everyone realize why Dongfang Xian looked very strange. Because the long spear in her hand was no longer a long spear, but a lone spear shaft. That majestic-looking metal spearhead had already disappeared. Dongfang Xian, on the other hand, complained in a tearful voice, "Why are the demons nowadays so honest? I said I would let her eat my spear, but I didn't expect her to really eat it." She hugged his penis and didn't let go. She even licked it, and in the end, she even broke his penis and snatched it away. How could she do this? If you like it, I can give her one. Why did she snatch it before that? Sun Lang sighed. Can you not say it in such a misleading manner? Chapter 106. In the hall, the lights were brightly lit. Dongfang Xian was pouting with an aggrieved look on her face. She was truly pitiful. After all, she had probably suffered one of the greatest blows of her life. Breaking a girl's penis was truly unforgivable. What kind of monster could it be? Sun Lang scratched his chin and said, "Why did it steal the iron penis? Was it Ci Tai?" According to the legends, it was a demonic beast that looked like a water buffalo, had huge horns, pitch-black fur, and fed on iron. Such a demon beast is really rare in the world because its excrement is as hard as steel and can be used to make marvelous weapons. It is said that several forging families secretly raise such a strange beast. Is there one here too? If so, we're going to be rich. Dongfang Xian wiped her tears and said angrily, "I don't care what species it is. As long as such an unscrupulous monster lives in this world, it will be a great threat to my superweapon. It must be destroyed." Zhang Yinluo recalled the scene when he was almost scared out of his wits by the monster and echoed, "That's right. Slay the monster. Slay the monster." Zhao Feihuang, however, frowned and said, "But the problem is that there are a lot of ironware in this restaurant, and they do not seem to have been damaged. Also, the monster was looking for Yinluo's sister at first. Except for her perverted breasts, there doesn't seem to be anything that the monster covets. After all, if it eats brains, it may become stupid. I feel that you are talking bad about me again, as if nothing happened." Zhang Yinluo shouted. "The monster said found it and give it to me behind me, too." Looking at the Jinghong sword in Zhang Nuxia's hand, Su Qingwan said in shock, "Is it targeting your imperial army?" The imperial army is made of mysterious materials and is the best weapon in the world. If it is the legendary iron-eating demon beast. Sun Lang shook his head decisively. That's absolutely impossible. There are no monsters in this world that dare to eat the imperial army. If such a strong guy did exist, Mingzhou City would have been flooded with blood a long time ago. Huh, wait a moment. He looked at Dongfang Xian. "I heard from Steward Su that you want to change the spearhead? Which spearhead did that monster steal? If it was a normal spearhead, would I be so sad?" Mentioning this matter, Dongfang Xian's voice carried a trace of sobbing. "What she stole was the product that I just designed and created today. It's the super lethal weapon that you said can release the true name and fire the magic cannon. White Scorching Extreme Spark. What's with this Sun Lang's unique naming style?" Zhang Yinluo stared at Sun Lang suspiciously. "Although the name sounds impressive, I don't think it's anything good. After all, you were the one who named it." Sun Lang ignored him and fell into deep thought with a serious face. After a moment, he slowly said, "Perhaps I roughly understand the truth. You actually want to fool around with a straight face?" The ranger looked at Dongfang Xian and narrowed his eyes. "Perhaps what this monster wants to take away is not your penis, but the things contained in it." Dongfang Xian was stunned for a moment, then suddenly said, "You mean those white, stinky, sticky liquids?" Sun Lang nodded solemnly. "Yes, this can also explain why Yinluo was also attacked. After all, she also has that kind of thing." Hey. Zhang Yinluo's face turned red as she shouted, "What are you talking about? I don't have that kind of thing. How many times do I have to say, I'm a woman, a woman?" Sun Lang and Dongfang Xian looked at each other, then took in a breath of cold air at the same time. They looked at Zhang Yinluo as if they were looking at trash. You actually thought of that kind of place, Yinluo? You're blaming me? You said. Zhang Yinluo suddenly opened his eyes wide. Wait, could it be that the inside of the spearhead is the juice of the canned herring? Hey, why did you pour that kind of thing into the spearhead? Dongfang Xian turned his head as if nothing had happened and whistled. Of course it's to shoot out. Sun Lang was quite considerate as he made a gesture of consoling himself, letting his hands move up and down and teaching him everything he knew. Hero and Zhang's tone instantly turned cold. You two are really the dregs of the empire, the trash of the country, the two most unstable factors in the world. In short, Sun Lang raised his finger. If that's the case, then everything makes sense. The other party is a monster that has a fanatical love for that kind of smelly, milky white liquid. Zhang Yinluo shouted with a red face. How? How can it be such a monster? Because it's canned herring and there's that kind of fermented fishy smell. I think it's probably a cat demon. Sun Lang analyzed seriously, then looked at Zhang Yinluo. You're thinking the wrong way again, aren't you? Then he was coldly stared at. Since we've already determined the type of monster, then let's start capturing it. Cat demon. Sun Lang suddenly showed an expression of infinite reverie. If only it's an obstacle cat, like the class leader. Zhang Yinluo was a little hesitant. Cat demon? I don't think it's a cat demon, but I didn't see her appearance clearly at that time. I only saw her wearing a yellow shirt with her hair down, and the face that was exposed was a little. Speaking of this, she shivered, as if she had thought of something terrible. Hearing her say this, Dongfang Xian nodded in agreement. Speaking of cat demons, they should be very nimble, but it seems like it's not very obvious. Who cares what kind of monster she is? Just catch her and take a look. Sun Lang waved his hand. Since she covets the canned herring, it means she's hungry. After being scared away by Yinluo, she continued to commit crimes, which means she's very hungry. The thing in the metal can't satisfy her, or it's very likely that she hasn't figured out how to suck out the thing in the metal. After saying that, he couldn't help but imagine a cute girl in a yellow shirt with cat ears and a cat tail curling her soft body into a ball, constantly fiddling with a metal pendant with her hands, constantly meowing anxiously. When Dongfang Xian heard that they were going to take revenge, she jumped up and waved her fist. Then let's begin. What are we going to do? Brother Sun once taught me a way to catch prey. A moment later, the oversized iron pot used in the restaurant's kitchen was carried out, buckled to the ground, and propped up with a long wooden stick. A long rope was tied to the stick, and a can of herring was buckled in the pot. A small crack was opened, and a mysterious smell escaped. The long rope was held in Sun Lang's hand, holding it from afar. They hid in the darkness and spied. Zhang Yinluo blinked, somewhat speechless. Are you sure this kind of trap can really attract monsters? In the next moment, a cold wind flashed, and a yellow figure appeared from the darkness, rushing toward the iron pot with lightning speed. F***, are you really that stupid? Sun Lang was surprised for a moment, then decisively pulled the rope. Take the pot, monster! Sun Lang's eyes were like lightning, and his prediction was extremely accurate. After pulling the rope, the iron pot suddenly sank, tightly covering the small figure below. In the next moment, Sun Lang rushed out like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey, pouncing on the pot lid and laughing. Monster, try this Seats Mahamudra first. If you can't take it, then forget it. If you can, then try my demon subduing pestle. Chapter 107. There was actually such a stupid monster. The purpose of Sun Lang setting up this trap was more to have fun. His plan was very simple. As long as the monster was attracted by the smell of the canned herring and appeared nearby, even if she did not snatch the canned herring, she would definitely be discovered by him. Once she was discovered, she would definitely not be able to escape. In this big world, there were not many people who could escape from within 100 meters of him. He didn't expect her to be so stupid as to walk right into his trap. Sun Lang laughed mischievously. While patting the bottom of the pot, he laughed and said, "You evil creature, your head is really not good. Fortunately, you bumped into me. If you bumped into an ordinary Taoist monk, how could you still be alive? How about this? I won't make things difficult for you. You could just follow me and pour tea and water every day, massage my shoulders and warm my bed. Don't you think it's good?" If it was a cat demon, when it was trapped in the iron pot and had nowhere to go, it would definitely cry out meow in panic. However, there was no movement at all. Sun Lang was stunned at first, then he was shocked. He suddenly lifted the lid of the pot and looked under the moonlight. He saw that the canned herring and a monster were all gone. The bottom of the pot was empty. There was nothing. This. The ranger sucked in a breath of cold air. Why is it gone? Could it really be that purple-clothed old woman? At this time, a few girls also rushed over. Seeing that there was no one under the pot, Zhang Yinluo quickly pulled out his sword and vigilantly said, "Strange, I clearly saw that monster being trapped in the pot. What's going on?" Zhao Feihuang didn't know martial arts, so he asked, could it be that it was some kind of extremely fast monster that escaped the moment the iron pot fell? Su Qingwan shook her head and said, "Except for the eldest miss, everyone here is a martial artist. I believe everyone can see very clearly that this pot has completely covered the monster." Dongfang Xin was more anxious than anyone else as she was thinking about her family's iron pot. Could it be that it escaped from the ground? It is said that some monsters cultivate this kind of demonic technique. It's very likely, Zhang Yinluo pondered. Speaking of which, when I first met the monster, I used the Jinghong sword to scare her away. She almost disappeared into thin air. At that time, the doors and windows were tightly shut. How'd she get in and out? This kind of monster's ability is so strange. She can come and go without a trace. We must catch her. Sun Lang crouched down and knocked on the ground. The ground is solid and the stone slabs are in good condition. There are no signs of damage. So, the other party's method of burrowing underground is not through physical destruction. I think I understand now, Zhang Yinluo frowned. Stop talking in riddles. What do you understand? The ranger smiled and took the startling sword from Zhang Yinluo's hand. If I'm not wrong, this monster must be enjoying a feast of canned herring right now. This means that it can't move at this time, so he held the sword in his left hand, and the body of the sword reflected the cold moonlight. His right index finger pressed on the body of the sword, and he gently stroked it upwards. The sword hummed. Just like a musician, the sword hummed and played a movement. The sound lingered in the air for 3 days. A watercolored light bloomed from the Imperial Army. An invisible but substantial power spread to the surroundings, circle after circle. Zhang Yinluo suddenly felt her heart palpitate. Then, a strange feeling rose in her heart. She had established a preliminary connection with the startling sword and could even resonate with this Imperial Army sword to a certain extent. So at this moment, she had a strange feeling in her heart. It was as if she had developed many indescribable feelings for Sun Lang: reverence, awe, and fear. Her eyes were confused as she looked at the person who was flicking the sword under the moonlight. He looked very different from usual. He was no longer smiling and careless. That serious look made her feel a sense of strangeness and alienation. This guy was really mysterious. Who knew how many secrets he was hiding? She turned her head and looked at Zhao Feihuang. She was shocked. Miss Zhao's cheeks were flushed, her breathing accelerated, and her eyes were faintly flowing with purple light. She could even see that her legs were tightly pressed together under her skirt. If it wasn't for housekeeper Su holding her back, perhaps something terrible would have happened. Dongfang Xin, who was the most carefree among them, also frowned. The current Sun Lang is a bit more handsome than usual, but I don't really like it. Zhang Yinluo's heart skipped a beat, as if she had thought of something. But in the next moment, Sun Lang, who was holding the sword and humming lightly, suddenly had the ethereal aura of someone who was about to ascend to heaven shattered. The ranger jumped 3 feet into the air and casually threw this invaluable Imperial Army sword to the side. He laughed wildly and said, "Just as I expected. I found you. Today I have to make you look 18 different." Dongfang Xin looked at his back and nodded. Ah, he's back. As expected, this kind of Sunlang is more normal. Then, she carried her long spear that had lost its ding and eagerly followed after him. Zhang Yinluo ran to the side with a subtle expression, picked up the Jinghong sword on the ground, and wiped the dust on it with heartache. This guy doesn't know how to cherish his weapon. Sister. As Sun Lang returned to normal, Miss Zhao also recovered from that magical state. She felt that her legs were a little weak. She held on to housekeeper Sue's arm, and her eyes were blurred. It's so strange. I feel that if Sun Lang smiled at me just now, I would be willing to die on the spot. This feeling. A trace of worry flashed across Su Qingluan's eyes. Miss, you can't be like this. No matter what you do, I will be by your side. Even if you want to marry someone, I will happily dress you up and send you off. But, as expected, this is not true love. I will definitely find a way to cure you. What I hope is that you will follow your heart and choose a husband. Sun Lang's cheers came from the small courtyard. This is it. Caught it. Wow. There's actually no reaction. Oh. When Zhao Feihuang heard Sun Lang's voice, he immediately regained his senses and said with a smile, Sister Su, let's go take a look as well. Su Qingluan smiled and nodded. Sun Lang was currently in the independent courtyard that Zhang Yinluo had lived in before. This should be the residence of the owner of the immortal fishing house. There was an independent courtyard with exquisite decorations. There was also a small garden with hundreds of flowers blooming inside. Sun Lang was standing among the flowers at this time, holding up an extremely beautiful flower high. Do you see it? I see it. Zhang Yinluo looked at Sun Lang blankly. So what is this? Sun Lang looked at the flower in his hand. In plant taxonomy, this is a perennial herb with perennial roots. In terms of species, I know flower thief. Zhang Yinluo said coldly. Why are you picking flowers? Sun Lang shrugged and said, Aren't you going to drag it under the sun for 3 days? Zhang Yinluo was stunned. Then his eyes widened and he instinctively took a step back. You mean this is a monster? What kind of monster is this? I can understand your doubts and surprise. In fact, my mood is also very complicated. Sun Lang glanced at the flower in his hand. You may not believe it, and you may think that this flower monster is very normal. But when I saw the body of this flower monster, I felt extremely uncomfortable because, Ashiba, he sighed. It's actually a chrysanthemum spirit. Chapter 108. This is a monster? Zhang Yinluo had a look of disbelief on his face. No matter how he looked at it, the thing in Sun Lang's hand looked like an ordinary chrysanthemum, at most a little beautiful. This chrysanthemum should be the original body of that monster. Sun Lang said with a smile. Plant monsters have a long lifespan and are closer to the power of Earth. It's much more convenient for them to cultivate than flying insects and beasts. However, they also have limitations, which is that they can't move freely unless they reach a high level of cultivation. Because their original bodies are rooted in the earth, they can't move easily. Therefore, after these plant-type monsters cultivate to a certain extent, they will use their spirit energy to create a clone. The clone can move freely within a certain range, and it also has many convenient spells. For example, when she was caught in the pot, she probably relied on a kind of earth escape technique to escape. Although Sun Lang's words were so mysterious, Zhang Yinluo still did not believe it. You've said so much. Why hasn't she shown herself yet? Right now, she looks just like a chrysanthemum. Sun Lang rolled his eyes. What are you going to show yourself for? Let you chop it? This stupid monster is probably hiding like a timid rabbit, shivering at the side, hoping to escape this calamity. Dongfang Xian had long since been unable to hold back and rushed into the flower bed, searching left and right. Not long after, he heard her cry, found it, my ding-ding. And, a moment later, she had a smile on her face as she skipped out. She had a ding-ding in her left hand and a can in her right hand. She looked very happy. He had found his beloved ding-ding again. and he had also obtained the raw materials to strengthen his decisive weapon. In the next moment, a cold light flashed in Zhang Yinluo's eyes, and he rushed forward like a tiger pouncing on its prey. Taking advantage of Dongfang Xian being caught off guard, he snatched the canned herring and snorted, "Children shouldn't play with this kind of thing. You bad woman, give it back to me." Dongfang Xian was instantly enraged when the strengthening materials were taken away. "Do you really like this white, sticky, and fishy thing that much? Go ask Sun Lang for it." Sun Lang was very cooperative as he pointed at his lower body. "You're welcome. You can have as much as you want, but it's self-service." "Shut up," Zhang Yinluo shouted angrily. "Little girl, today I'll teach you how to be polite. Today She raised her hand and pretended to throw the can. However, she did not notice that in order to release the smell to attract the monsters, the can had been opened a small crack. At this moment, the mysterious smell was released again. Then, in the darkness, a yellow figure suddenly appeared and pounced toward Zhang Wei. "Give it to me! Give it to me!" Zhang Yinluo suddenly screamed and threw the canned herring over. The figure was very agile. He stretched out his arm and caught the canned herring in his hand, preparing to escape. She let out a scream and lost her balance in midair. Then, her legs went soft and she fell to the ground powerlessly. Everyone looked over. The figure was slender and beautiful. It was indeed a female monster. What was strange was that she actually had a head of golden hair. At this moment, the can of herring in her hand fell, and she let out a shocked and angry cry. What are you doing?" Hearing this tone and words, the girls instinctively turned their heads and looked at Sun Lang in unison. Sun Lang Zheng curiously stretched out his finger and pushed open the bud of the chrysanthemum in his hand. A surprised smile appeared on his face as he said, "Ah, a single-sex flower, pistil, goodness, oh, I see it. The stem, ovary, the ovules are very cute." The monster's face flushed red, and she screamed, "Stop! You guy, what are you doing to my chrysanthemum? You're so noisy, you monster." Sun Lang looked up at her and said coldly, "Find 1,000 Himalayan cliff bees to pollinate you. Be *starred to pollinate you with giant nepenthes. Be *starred." Zhang Yinluo did not know if it was because of his threatening words or his ferocious appearance, but the monster was so scared that she almost fainted. She covered her mouth tightly, and her eyes were filled with helplessness and fear. Zhang Yinluo walked around her and picked up the canned herring that had rolled off the ground. When the monster saw that the canned herring had fallen into her hands, she did not care about anything else and rushed forward. "Give it to me." Sun Lang used the skill One Yang Finger. It turned out that although the great health power was ineffective, normal contact could still cause a normal reaction. Sun Lang used the skill Two Finger Touch. The monster screamed again and fell to the ground. She helplessly stretched out her hand to Zhang Yinluo. "Give it to me. At least give it to me. Just one mouthful." "I see. The reason why you're interested in that kind of thing is that you treat the can of herring as nutritious fertilizer?" Sun Lang nodded calmly. "A wise choice." Zhang Yinluo carefully avoided the monster and hid behind Sun Lang. He whispered, "Is this considered to be caught? What should we do with her next?" Su Qingwan had been protecting Zhao Fei Huang behind her from the beginning. A trace of fierceness flashed in her eyes, since she is a monster. When Zhang Yinluo heard this, a look of pity appeared on her face. She turned her head and asked Sun Lang, "Can you tell if she has killed anyone before?" Sun Lang narrowed his eyes when he heard that. He focused his gaze and observed the flower of the chrysanthemum in his hand. Then he shook his head and said, "No, there is no smell of blood or death." Zhang Nuxia was in a dilemma. She was indeed afraid of monsters, but at this time, the monster had turned into a human form and looked pitiful. Even her chrysanthemum was in the hands of Sun Lang. It was too miserable. She hesitated in her heart. Suddenly, an idea flashed in her mind, and she said directly, "You decide. You're good at pushing the blame. But no problem. Continue to rely on me. Continue to let me make the decision until until he, in my opinion, although this monster is a monster, she has never harmed anyone. She is also a spirit of vegetation. She is not wild and fierce, so there is no reason to kill her. The ranger walked to the side of the little banshee. The banshee had already stood up timidly. Sun Lang looked at her and reached out his hand. His eyes were gentle and affectionate, like a kind uncle. Even if she is a monster, we can eliminate her wild nature, polish her soul, and finally turn her into a cute little girl. Really, look at this soft golden hair. Look at this cute double-drilled ponytail. It gives people a premonition that she will become a talented person in the future and then return to old Sue's side. As he said so, he touched the banshee's smooth and white cheeks. Yes, it felt good to the touch. It was tender and soft. She was indeed a spirit of vegetation. She was so king fresh. Yes, the sudden blush on her cheeks was also very cute. There was also a cute cry and the fluctuation when she fell to the ground again. Blush, cry, fall? The ranger's hand froze in midair. He looked at his hand. Then he looked at the chrysanthemum spirit who was lying on the ground with a confused and flushed face. It instinctively clamped its legs together, not knowing what had happened. He was silent for a moment. Forget it. Let's just kill her. Chapter 109. In the lobby of the restaurant, the little demoness was shivering in fear. Sun Lang's face was as calm as water. Occasionally, he would cast a glance at the little demoness, making her tremble. In life, they're only killing an F*******. If you don't F***** with me, you will be killed by me. So trash. Trash. Stupid. The disgrace of the monster world. Feng Jian Yuxiang will definitely whip you to death with an umbrella when she sees you like this. As an upright monster, you are actually defeated by the great power of a human. It is really too disappointing. The most shameful thing is that you actually deceived the feelings of a pure young man. When the real body was touched, there was no problem at all. She was obviously a good girl who would only scream when her pistol was touched. Why did the clone in human form become a bitch who would be in heat when touched casually? Dog, you can't change so quickly. Child, your father is very disappointed in you. Zhang Yinluo looked at Sun Lang's depressed expression and guessed the ranger's thoughts. She didn't know why, but the girl wanted to laugh. She clicked her tongue twice and pretended to be angry. It's too ugly. Sun Lang, after your fantasy was shattered, you wanted to kill? What did you plan to do to this monster? I didn't expect that you would want to attack a monster. Zhao Feihuang suddenly said, Yes, you already have sister Yinluo. Harrow and Zhang nodded and said, Yes, you already have me. What the hell? She turned her head and shouted at Miss Zhao. Why are you joining in the fun? Why are you shouting? Miss Zhao covered her mouth and laughed. Wasn't someone very nervous just now? If the monster isn't affected by Sun Lang's power, then little sister Yinluo, your greatest reliance will be gone. You will turn from a unique girl into a silly girl who can only rely on those vulgar breasts to fight for favor and flatter others. No way. Zhang Yinluo stomped his feet and said, No way, no way, no way, no way. In any case, Zhang Nainai's bold attempt to offend her superior had been crushed by the considerate Lady Zhao. The little sense of superiority in her heart when facing Sun Lang had also disappeared. The ranger smiled at Zhao Feihuang and nodded approvingly. Lady Zhao also obediently returned a smile. Sun Lang clapped his hands and said, All right, enough joking. Let's discuss how to deal with this monster. Hearing this, the chrysanthemum spirit's petite body shivered again. With a sorrowful expression, she said pitifully, What are you going to do with me? Make tea? To be used as medicine? Can't you be more nimble when you hit me? I'm afraid of pain. When the girls saw her helpless expression, their hearts softened. Even Zhang Yinluo, who was most afraid of monsters, lost most of her anger. She glanced at Sun Lang and said, Hey, what? The ranger spread out his hands and said, The ones who were frightened and attacked by the monster were you and Dongfang Xin, so the power to deal with it is in your hands. You decide. Huh? Zhang Yinluo said in surprise. You're not going to kill her, Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, "Who does she think she is? She's not worthy of being killed by me." Zhang Yinluo obviously misunderstood Sun Lang's performance as arrogance. Revealing a knowing smile, she then turned her gaze to Dongfang Xian and asked, "What do you think?" Dongfang Xian's face was calm. She stood up without saying a word, picked up the iron pendant beside her, and walked towards the female monster. This scene was really too beautiful. The candlelight flickered. A girl wearing a short skirt and white silk carried an iron pendant. Striding with her slender legs, she walked towards a helpless and weak girl. Well, no matter what, Dongfang Xian was the biggest victim in this case. Although Zhang Yinluo was scared out of his wits, other than being a little scared, he did not suffer any losses. Dongfang Xian, on the other hand, watched as his precious pendant was hugged and licked by the female monster, and then directly broke off and snatched away. Even a man would not be able to accept this kind of horrifying scene, let alone a girl with a big pendant that she was proud of. The chrysanthemum demoness seemed to understand that the moment to decide her fate had arrived. She seemed to want to put on a submissive look, but when she saw the strange pillar-shaped object in Dongfang Xian's hand, she couldn't move her eyes away. Seeing her like this, Dongfang Xian snorted, raised the iron rod in his hand, and waved it left and right. Then, the demoness' eyes also swayed left and right. This golden-haired demon girl couldn't help but lick the corner of her mouth. Dongfang Xian said coldly, "Why did you do such a thing to my pendant?" The monster blinked its eyes and thought for a moment before understanding what was going on. She lowered her head and said obediently, "I'm really sorry." Dongfang Xian frowned and said seriously, "What I'm asking you is, why did you do such a thing?" The monster's body trembled slightly as it said in a low voice, Because I want... You want it?" Dongfang Xian's eyes lit up. "You like it too?" The monster nodded repeatedly. "Yes, I like it. Zhao Fei Huang, who had been watching from the side, complained, "I keep having the feeling that the two of them aren't talking about the same thing." "Then I'll forgive you. But don't do this kind of thing again in the future." Dongfang Xian revealed a smile and casually patted the monster's shoulder. "A girl who likes ding-ding can't be a bad person. But she's a monster. Apologize to all the pure girls in the world. Is there anything wrong with her head?" The girls ridiculed her one after another, but Dongfang Xian turned a deaf ear to them. In her opinion, the only person who understood her in this world was Sun Lang, and now there seemed to be an additional monster. "Since you've forgiven her, what do you plan to do with her?" Sun Lang asked. "Go outside and find a desolate mountain range or a pile of dung, and stick it there." "Whatever." The monster was shocked at first, then lowered its head dejectedly. "Although it's very cold and scary outside, and there are also shameless wild grasses and wild flowers growing everywhere, and there are also undignified bees that want to do shameless things to people, and it's very easy to starve, and there are also a lot of insects, but I'm already very grateful that you didn't kill me," Sun Lang said with a playful smile. "From your words, it seems like you want to stay here." The young girl suddenly raised her head and asked in surprise, "Can I?" Sun Lang pouted at Zhang Yinluo. "I don't mind, but the young miss over there seems to be very afraid of demons." Zhang Nexia's expression was somewhat ugly, but when she heard this, she immediately jumped up and said, "I'm not afraid of demons." Dongfang Xian immediately said, "Since you're not afraid of demons, then you don't object to her staying here?" Zhang Yinluo's expression changed, and he hesitated. "This," Zhao Fei Huang skillfully added, "you're obviously not afraid of demons, but you don't want to let an innocent and weak little flower demon who has never hurt anyone stay here. It's really cruel, Sister Yinluo. Can you bear to see her wandering in the wilderness and being bullied by shameless guys like goats, rabbits, bees, wildflowers, and ants? What a cruel woman." Although the little flower demon was a little naive, the instinct of a demon still made her keenly aware of the relationship of a human food chain in a short period of time. After seeing Zhao Fei Huang's obscure look, the little demoness instantly understood. She covered her face with her sleeve and sobbed, sob, sob, sob. Zhang Yinluo was defeated under the righteous gaze of everyone, and he said loudly in despair, "Okay, okay, okay. I agree. I'll agree, okay." Hearing her sigh of relief, the girls also let out a long breath and smiled. "Sister Yinluo, although your chest is ridiculously big, you're actually a good person. You know a person's milk, but you don't know their heart. I didn't expect a fierce woman like you to have a little bit of humanity." Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes and said, "Please, when you praise people, praise them properly. Thank you very much. Sister Yinluo. Hey, don't just hug me. Stay away from me. Stop. I really have to make an agreement with you. You demon." Chapter 110. After the noise came to an end, Zhang Yinluo raised her eyebrows and waved the sheathed sword in her hand. She said loudly, "You monster, listen carefully. If you want to stay here, you have to make 3 rules with me. First, when you get along with us humans, you have to follow the habits of humans, follow the morals of humans, and follow the customs of humans." The chrysanthemum demon was baffled. She tilted her head and looked at Dongfang Xin, asking for translation. Dongfang Xin leaned her head close to the chrysanthemum demon's ear and whispered in a voice that everyone could hear. "What she means is, you have to act not like a monster. Don't scare her." The veins on Zhang Yinluo's forehead bulged. She took a deep breath and suppressed the nameless fire in her heart. Second, you have to respect other people's privacy. For example, you have to walk with your feet, knock on the door when you visit, and enter from the front door. Walk in. Don't use that spell of yours to run around. This time, the chrysanthemum demon understood and nodded, indicating that there was no problem. However, Dongfang Xin was unwilling to be left out and still acted as the translator. What she means is, don't suddenly flash in when she is bathing, changing clothes, and doing strange things. She will be shy. The little demoness tilted her head. Strange things? What strange things? Dongfang Xin cautiously stared at Zhang Yinluo's chest and then started to mumble in a low voice. The demoness was surprised at first. Then she sucked in a breath of cold air and suddenly said, "No wonder it's so big. I'm talking about you." Zhang Yinluo gritted her teeth and said, "What rumors are you spreading now?" Sun Lang seemed to have thought of something and looked at the chrysanthemum demon and Dongfang Xin, who seemed to get along very well. He nodded and said, "Since that's the case, then it's settled. I agree that you can stay here and accept my protection, but in return, you have to prove your value. The office is still lacking a pet. I mean a maid. You can temporarily take on the job of cleaning, cooking, weeding, growing flowers, cooking, washing, and so on." Zhang Yinluo frowned and said, "She is a monster. How can she know this?" "If you don't know, you can learn." Sun Lang smiled and extended a finger. "As for the payment, 1 can of herring a month." The little demoness' eyes flashed, and she jumped 3 feet high. "I'll do it. I'll do it. I will learn it well. Please give it to me." Hearing that, Dongfang Xin also shouted, "I want it too, I want it too." 2 cute girls were fighting to be the first to ask Sun Lang for the white sticky substance. Oh, what a dreamlike scene. Sun Lang meaningfully laughed twice, then suddenly stopped smiling and pointed at Dongfang Xin. "Don't work, don't shit. Oh, don't eat." The chrysanthemum sprite earned canned herring for herself with her hard work, and so did you. If you also want to get canned herring, then I'll assign you a job. From today onwards, you'll be in charge of leading the chrysanthemum spirits. You'll be in charge of teaching her the 3 views and common sense of the human world, giving her a complete personality and soul. If a monster wants to survive in a crowd, it must behave like a human. It's like this in the world, and it's the same here. Do you know it? Dongfang Xin was surprised for a moment, then turned her head and looked at the little demoness. They had previously engaged in an indescribable battle for some indescribable reason, but they had also shaken hands and made peace for another indescribable reason. Now, they already had a trace of mutual appreciation. If it was her, she would definitely become a good friend with the same ideals. The 2 girls saw such words in each other's eyes. Sun Lang looked at this scene and sighed, "Ah, That's great. The legendary chrysanthemum fragrance combination. Great your head. Zhang Yinluo shouted. This silly and naive monster who doesn't know anything. You want to give her to Dongfang Xin to train? A guy who uses such a shameless weapon, wears such undignified clothes, and has such a deranged hobby and inhuman way of thinking? Sun Lang spread out his hands and said, could it be that heroine Zhang wants to volunteer to show this lost monster the way of life and teach her some life experience? Zhang Yinluo was stunned for a moment, then suddenly shivered. I don't want. The ranger pointed at Zhao Fei Huang and said, then let Miss Zhao raise her. Miss Zhao met Zhang Yinluo's gaze and smiled sweetly. Her expression was innocent and her eyes were pure, like a little white flower. Of course, I will definitely teach her to be a lady of a noble family. I'd be a fool to believe you, you two-faced and cunning fox spirit. Heroine Zhang used a fierce look to deny Miss Zhao's right to raise her. Then the last one left in this room was... Sun Lang sighed and gently brushed the hair in front of his forehead. There's really no other way, although it's very troublesome. But let me make this daisy bloom, Zhang Yinluo decisively said. Let Dongfang Xin do it. Even if she was taught to be a perverted monster by a perverted girl, it would still be much better than falling into the hands of the two of you. Then it's decided. Sun Lang pointed at the banshee and shouted, Chrysanthemum spirit. Wait, there's still one more thing that hasn't been decided. Since you've already joined here, don't always call me a monster. Zhang Yinluo asked the banshee, do you have a name? Name? The banshee's eyes were slightly dim. I don't, because a name is a code that others use to remember and call themselves. How can I have a name? Dongfang Xin held her hand. Since that's the case, let's give you a name. But what should I call you? Sun Lang looked at the banshee's unique hairstyle and raised his eyebrows. Ba'asami. Then he was immediately rejected. Although I don't know the origin of this name, I don't think it's good. No matter how you look at it, it's very problematic. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Sun Lang touched his chin. How about a whirlpool? Although it sounds very powerful, I don't know why I feel like it's perverted. No. So many problems. So, chrysanthemum spirit. Sun Lang pondered. Are you interested in the surname Wang? That's enough. Can't you think of a few normal names? Zhang Yinluo squinted and said, Chrysanthemum's other names are Shouku, Jining, Huanghua, Qiuju, Taoju, Sun Spirit, Nuhua, Yin Yin. So, you should have said so earlier. Sun Lang suddenly slammed the table and said loudly, It's decided. Since you're so yellow, your surname will be Huang. As for your name, you'll be Sun Spirit. In the future, when you find a sister, you can call her Huang Yu. Huang Yueying. Speaking of this, he squinted and looked around. Are some people thinking the wrong way? This time, he received a collective roll of the eyes from everyone. Let's call her Zhuing. Miss Zhao chuckled and said, according to Shinong's herbal classic, chrysanthemum is also called Zhuing. I think this name is very good. Everyone muttered this name a few times, because there were very subtle names such as Ba Asami, Shui Xian, Wang Boju, and Huang Sun Spirit in front of it as a contrast. The name was so elegant and pleasant to hear. The girls looked at the banshee with a smile. Dongfang Xin patted her on the shoulder and said, Zhuing, what do you think of this name? The little demoness repeated her name over and over again. She did not know what it meant or what it meant. But regardless of whether it sounded good or bad, rare or ordinary, no matter what it meant, she would gladly accept it, because such a name meant something. It meant that someone would remember her, someone would call her, and someone would remember her. So, I also have a name. So, chrysanthemum is yellow, and chrysanthemum can be used as medicine. She can learn related skills in the future, and she can be called Huang Yaosher. Therefore, the monster Zhuing, on such a night, joined a very suspicious organization. Chapter 111. The renovation and construction work of the office was on the right track. The Marquis Jing and Manor had sent the best craftsmen to oversee the construction work. Sun Lang had provided the sketches, and the experienced craftsmen had modified and perfected them. After the Rangers' final approval, construction began. The original furniture of the restaurant had been thrown to the Marquis Manor to take care of. All the additions and expenses were paid for by the Marquis Manor. A certain ranger did not feel like he was living off a woman, and young Miss Zhao was eager for Sun Lang to eat a few more bowls. It would be best if he came to eat for a long time. One was willing to hit, and the other was willing to suffer. At this time, the restaurant had already begun its renovation work. Large carts came and went, bringing in raw materials and furniture. Craftsmen and small workers came and went without end. The movements of the immortal fishing house could not be hidden from the eyes of those who paid attention. So even if young Miss Zhao was unwilling, she could not stay by Sun Lang's side all the time. The reason why the Marquis Jing and Manor had invested in this was because they were grateful to Sun Lang and Zhang Yinluo for saving their lives. But if the Marquis Manor's young miss was constantly around this ranger, even a pig would be able to see that there was a problem. After all, Miss Zhao was Miss Zhao. She was decisive and intelligent. Even if she wanted to leave, she would use her reluctant eyes to smile and say, "I don't want to cause trouble for Sun Lang." Then she would leave quickly so that Sun Lang could feel the girl's affection, reluctance, thoughtfulness, gentleness, and sadness. She really was a little demoness who could torment people. So it could be said that if a stupid heroine with a ridiculously large chest had 70% of young Miss Zhao's skills and thoughts, she would have already become close friends with Sun Lang. Unclose friends with him. However, this stupid girl with a ridiculously large chest did not realize this. Ever since Zhao Feihuang left, Zhang Yinluo's mood had been very good. That two-faced young miss who had wishfully considered him a competitor and love rival had already left. That perverted little girl, who was waving her shameless weapon and still prejudiced against him, was also busy educating her little monster follower. She and Sun Lang were the only two people left in the noisy backyard of the immortal fishing house 2 days ago. It's so much easier to deal with a ranger who has a bad personality, is lazy, and likes to make fun of others. That's why everyone is targeting me. Like to tease me together, like to bully me together, like to mock me together. Although he was a little puzzled, Zhang Yinluo felt relieved when he thought about the character settings of those fellows. No matter what strange things they did, it wouldn't be strange. She found a suitable reason to convince herself. Then, she showed a smile full of anticipation. She remembered her original intention of coming here to follow Sun Lang and become a ranger, to find the answers she had been searching for, to learn things she had not yet learned, to become a better version of herself, who could better carry out her beliefs. Although there was a small incident midway, everything was finally on the right track. So, all the irrelevant people had disappeared. Could she finally start the first step of her ranger career? No, not yet. So what's with your useless look of wanting to go out of the novice village to fight slimes? That's right, there was still a decadent guy who exuded a lazy aura, the root of obstructing hard work and progress. The corner of Zhang Yinluo's eyes twitched slightly. Although the office still needs some time to be repaired, it doesn't prevent us from doing some preliminary work. Besides, the office is only a place to accept missions and meet clients, not our office. So, in theory, it's okay for us to start accepting missions and completing commissions now. What you said makes sense, but where do we accept missions? Sun Lang spread out his hands. This isn't the Rangers Guild. We don't have a babbling babysitter like Stick, Who, and a group of responsible breeders feeding us the tasks they've sorted out for us to choose from. To some extent, we're already competitors with the Rangers Guild since we're independent. I've looked up the relevant information and records these 2 days, especially looking up the precedents of some rangers who went solo. Zhang Yinluo nodded. Some of them became lone rangers, some set up escort agencies, and some entered the government. The paths they chose were different, but they all had one thing in common. They were all famous rangers with rich experience and sophisticated means. Not only do they have quite mature professional skills and accomplishments, but more importantly, they have a dense network of relationships in their long career. This means that they have a good reputation. Many loyal customers will also keep in touch with them after they become independent and even become their helpers. At this point, Zhang Yinluo looked at Sun Lang with expectant eyes. So, contact your old customers, Sun Lang whistled and turned his head to the side as if nothing had happened. That's why they're all weak chickens. It's good to start from scratch. Relying on old relationships in the past. What kind of heroes are they? Let me tell you, they want to rely on relationships for everything, and they're not willing to do anything in a down-to-earth manner. This is the bad habit of the Chinese. Do you understand the bad habit? Under this system of pills, I'm afraid China will become the biggest loser. Zhang Yinluo said coldly. In other words, you don't have any loyal customers, right? Sun Lang said with a look of disdain. Nonsense. Let's not talk about anything else, just the recent one. That Zhang Jianyuan is a big head. Believe it or not, he'll come and go in his feces and urine with just a word from me. Believe it or not. And Miss Zhao, believe it or not, she'll happily wash herself clean and lie on my bed with just a word from me. Such a customer. Is he loyal or not? Is he reliable? You, who turn an important customer into that kind of person, is simply the most unreliable guy in the world of martial arts. Zhang Yinluo sighed and said, also, Zhang Xiangtou and Ms. Zhao only got to know each other recently, right? Because of that matter, haven't you done any serious business before? Yes. Sun Lang shrugged. I've done an extremely serious deal in the past, one that you can't even imagine. But unfortunately, the deal wasn't successful because the client was too careless. In the end, although the deal was successful, it wasn't a happy ending. Although I received a generous reward, it wasn't what I wanted. Although the client's initial goal was achieved, they probably weren't happy. Oh, what a joke. He spread his hands. So, although the customer was an unbelievably strong golden thigh, and if I could get on his good side, I wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, I was young and impetuous back then, and did some small work. Ridiculous. Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes. But when you mention Zhang Jianyuan, I think of something. Chapter 112. In the past 2 days, Sun Lang had been busy planning the blueprints, giving suggestions, and helping Dongfang Exine train the little flower fairy. He was basically in a very busy state. Naturally, he had no interest in those boring and unimportant things. When he heard Zhang Yinluo mention Zhang Jianyuan, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and ask, Zhang Jianyuan? What happened to him? Was he beaten up by the city management? I don't think there are many people in Mingzhou City who would dare to beat up the embroidery hall except for you. Zhang Yinluo said with a complicated expression, I say, you should pay more attention to the embroidery hall. After all, they were lured into that evil path by you, and Zhang Jianyuan trusts what you said very much. He has made up his mind to do something big. I'm not his father, and I don't expect him to give me a bonus. Why should I pay close attention to this guy? Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, tell him how to make stinky tofu and teach him the experience of doing business. Then we'll call it even for throwing the canned herring at him. Yes, yes, yes. Hero-san, you clearly distinguish between kindness and hatred. Zhang Yinluo nodded and gave up arguing with Sun Lang. She shook her head and said, unfortunately, Zhang Jianyuan doesn't think so. He sees you as a good teacher and helpful friend. Yesterday, he sent a message to report the results of the past few days. It was unexpectedly successful. After the publicity of the trial of courage and the high reward, the streets and alleys of Mingzhou City are talking about it now. Zhang Jianyuan struck the iron while it was hot and kept setting up arenas in the downtown areas of Mingzhou City to promote it. The results are getting better and better. Sun Lang nodded repeatedly and sighed. It's just hard on those henchmen of the embroidery hall who are responsible for the black box operation. They must have had a hard time eating, especially after more and more people know that the stinky tofu actually tastes good. It's definitely not easy to keep the reward from more people. Zhang Yinluo squinted and said, didn't you teach them that? Look at what you're saying. This murderer killed someone with a sword. Don't tell me you want to capture the blacksmith who sold the sword. Sun Lang said eloquently. What's more, selling stinky tofu is a risky business. Doing this kind of business with high risks and high returns is like promoting a painting to a dean. It's all about one's life, 2's luck, 3's feng shui, 4's virtue, and 5's hard work. If Zhang Jianyuan wants to sell his stinky tofu, of course, he has to look at the historical process, but he also has to rely on his own efforts. Fine. I can't outtalk you. Zhang Yinluo shook his head. In short, Big Fragrant Head Zhang's side went smoothly. He said that he followed your instructions and made stinky tofu famous. Now, several restaurants have shown interest in stinky tofu. However, he remembered your teachings and exhortations and refused to reveal the secret recipe. He plans to invest in the construction of a factory and carry out the standard production you mentioned, expanding the scale. Zhang Jianyuan is growing step by step into a promising society. Sun Lang nodded approvingly. But what does this have to do with me? He originally wanted to come in person, but he was so busy these days that he sent someone to deliver the invitation. Zhang Yinluo thought for a moment, then walked to Sun Lang's desk and rummaged through the piles of documents for a while. I seem to have given you the invitation yesterday. You didn't read it, right? Really, the table is so messy. The small courtyard in the backyard of the restaurant had now become a temporary office and a place where Sun Lang did not do his job. A large number of design sketches, picture books, and novels were piled on the table. Zhang Yinluo nonchalantly threw a few books with shocking covers to the side and pulled out an invitation from a pile of paper. She looked at the messy table and muttered, I don't know how to tidy up. Sun Lang stretched his waist, took the invitation, and said arrogantly, Secretary Zhang, please tidy up. Zhang Yinluo sighed. If she had an argument with Sun Lang about this, then the time and energy consumed would be enough for her to tidy up the desk twice. Looking at Zhang Yinluo obediently tidying up the table, Sun Lang nodded his head. Good. Yesterday, I asked Dongfang Exun that extremely praiseworthy short skirt of white silk and justice was actually sewn by her herself. What a capable little girl. Today I will add an order. Please hurry up and make a set of special OL uniform for secretaries. He opened the invitation, glanced at it a few times, and threw the invitation on the table. He curled his lips and said, he actually invited me to attend the ribbon-cutting ceremony and even asked me to write a congratulatory speech. Congratulate him for spreading his wings and soaring to the sky. Zhang Yinluo reached out and took the invitation. After reading it, her eyes suddenly lit up and she said with a smile, you really don't know how to appreciate kindness. Zhang Jianyuan clearly has good intentions. Our firm has just been established, and we don't have any reputation at all. Zhang Jianyuan has been running the embroidery hall for many years, and he has a lot of connections in both the underworld and the legal world. In addition, the stinky tofu has been popular in Mingzhou City these days, and it has already attracted people's attention. When the time comes for his factory building ceremony, there will be a lot of people coming to watch the ceremony. You will give a ribbon-cutting speech as a distinguished guest and introduce our firm at the same time. Won't our reputation be spread? Sun Lang shook his head and said, who can Zhang Jianyuan know? If we want to advertise, there are many more effective ways. For example, we can hire the Internet Water Army to spread rumors everywhere, saying that the reason why I became independent from the Rangers Guild was that I accidentally found the affair between Hu Shouxin, the head of the guild, and Liang Bufan, the head of the Six Fan School. You see, isn't that eye-catching enough? Then we can take the opportunity. Okay, I know you have a lot of ideas, but Zhang Jianyuan has good intentions. You'd better write a speech and go to him. Zhang Yinluo's scalp tingled when he heard this. He hurriedly stopped Sun Lang from talking nonsense, for fear that his young heart would be polluted by him. Sun Lang still shook his head and said, No. Zhang Yinluo's expression changed, and he tried to provoke him. Are you saying that your handwriting is particularly ugly and your essay is particularly bad, so you're afraid of embarrassing yourself? Ah. If that's the case, then you can ask me to write it for you. If you ask me sincerely, then I'll be merciful and help you this time. Nonsense. Sun Lang said proudly. I'm afraid of scaring you. If there's a stone in the world of literary talent, then I have 8 tons. My literary spirit is so rich and brilliant that it's absolutely beyond your imagination. Flowers blossomed when I wrote, and the achievements of my poems were so great that anyone who looked at it felt like their literary palace would explode, and anyone who listened to it would feel like their brain would explode. What nonsense are you talking about? The more Sun Lang talked, the more Ms. Zhang felt that there was something wrong. A smile flashed in her eyes, and she took a piece of paper from the table and ground the ink. She dipped the brush in the ink and handed it to Sun Lang with both hands, and said with a smile, "Then let me broaden my knowledge." Sun Lang's eyes flashed with a hint of arrogance. He took the brush, and then his body shook, and he snorted coldly. "You really don't know what's good for you. Then stand firm." Chapter 113. In the room, Zhang Yinluo stood behind Sun Lang. She stood on her tiptoes and held her breath. She wanted to see what Sun Lang could write. The ranger smiled confidently. His thumbs were bent naturally, and half of his thumbs touched the shaft of the pen. His thumb and index finger were slightly apart, and he made a standard posture of holding a pen. "What kind of grip is that?" Zhang Yinluo complained loudly. "This is a writing brush. It's not a fountain pen or a quill pen. So the fountain pen has already been invented. Damn, luckily I don't rely on inventions to make a living. Otherwise, I'd be slapped in the face." Sun Lang glanced at Zhang Yinluo. "Shut up. I don't need to promote traditional culture in this place where the power of feudal traditions is so strong. Who cares about the grip? As long as I can write, it's fine. You don't believe me? Let me tell you, don't underestimate me. Whether I write the word meat on your forehead or upright on your chest, I'll definitely write it properly for you. Go to hell." Zhang Yinluo rolled her eyes. "Let's see what you can write." With this thought, the tip of Sun Lang's brush had already touched the soft surface of the Xian paper. But what was unexpected was that even though he was holding the soft brush in such an awkward way, there was not the slightest sign of slippage. Sun Lang steadily wrote down the first character. The soft tip of the brush and the hard body of the brush were used freely in his hands. In the spring of the 42nd year of the first emperor calendar, the people's diet was sparse. The 3 meals were bland and tasteless. Zhang Jinyuan experimented with stinky tofu and founded Mingzhou City. The words were okay, but the content was sloppy and ordinary. There was no highlight. It was cliché and very vague. Zhang Yinluo curled her lips. Sun Lang was completely unaware of this. If reading web novels in his previous life had taught him anything, it would be to deliberately keep a low profile before acting tough to attract disdainful comments and ridicule from the antagonist. When the antagonist raised a flag, he would slap the antagonist's face with lightning speed. This way, he could collect the strength of acting tough faster and fill up the acting tough slot faster. From there, he could use the super profound acting tough skill. So, feel free to be disdainful. You'll be dumbfounded in a while. He continued to write. In the 3rd day of the month, this item was popular in the city. Everyone praised it. It was to open a workshop and build a factory to brighten Mingzhou City and let the people taste it. Zhang Yinluo snorted disdainfully. "You're biting on words and using dry words. That's all there is to it." But she didn't hear him and continued to write. "This is an essay to remember. It's here." Sun Lang and Zhang Yinluo's eyes flashed at the same time. At this point, the opening part was finished. Next was the most important part of the essay. Whether it was brilliant literary talent or showing off in front of an expert and making a fool of himself, it all depended on the quality of the essay. Sun Lang turned his head around and smiled at Zhang Yinluo. That smile contained an enormous amount of self-confidence and faint mockery towards this big-breasted girl. After that, he turned his head back, and his brush moved like a dragon or a snake. Faintly, 7 layers of treasure light surrounded his body, and a boundless literary aura radiated from him. With a flourish of his brush, he sprinkled ink onto the clean white rice paper. Impressively, 3 flamboyant words appeared on the paper. I won't do it. After writing, Sun Lang threw the brush to the ground and smiled proudly. I'm done. He turned around and looked at Zhang Yinluo, who was stunned. Humph, humph. Were you hurt by my literary aura? Is this an essay that will make the listener's face turn ashen, speechless, and unable to write a single word? Essay. Essay your ass. Zhang Yinluo shouted. Are you going to read this during the ribbon-cutting ceremony? Zhang Jianyuan will bring people to beat you up. He will definitely beat you up. Ranger's eyes flashed. His expression was surprised and happy. Nanny, are you serious? Then I'll use this. Zhang Yinluo looked up to the sky and sighed. I knew I couldn't rely on you. She pushed Sun Lang to the side, and then tore the ancient text into pieces. Under Sun Lang's protests, she sat down and took a new piece of paper. She sighed and said, Shut up, I'll help you write it. You should have said so earlier. It's a waste of my literary aura. Sun Lang curled his lips and then sat to the side. For a moment, the room became quiet. The girl who was writing at a high speed, the ranger who was bored to death. Sun Lang quietly stared at Zhang Yinluo's serious side profile. Then he felt that, as expected, an OL suit was not enough. She had to add a pair of glasses and black stockings. However, the quiet atmosphere did not last long. Sun Lang was a person who could not stay still, especially when he was beside Zhang Yinluo. His activity level increased by 30%. Yinluo, do you need me to grind for you? I mean grind the ink. Okay. Yinluo, do you need me to massage your shoulders? I mean massage your shoulders. Okay. Yinluo, do you need me to massage your shoulders? I mean massage your chest. Get lost. Don't be like this. Aren't you tired? I'll hold it for you. Zhang Yinluo stopped writing and rolled her eyes at Sun Lang. I'm the one who's helping you right now. Whether it's clearing the table or writing a speech, you should be grateful. At least don't disturb me. Okay? After saying that, she waved her hand as if she was dismissing a child. Be good. Go out and see how the construction in the front building is going. Sun Lang leaned back in his chair and said lazily, Don't worry. There won't be anyone slacking off. According to the craftsman, Ms. Zhao asks about the construction progress several times a day. Zhang Yinluo frowned at the mention of Zhao Feihuang. For a moment, even Sun Lang, who was living off her with a clear conscience, made her unhappy. She snorted. Then go out and play. Sun Lang shook his head like a rattle drum. I don't want to. It's not as fun as you outside. Then get out and do your work. Zhang Yinluo raised her eyebrows. You're the boss of the firm, not me. I'm just your partner, not your secretary. I'm being merciful by helping you. So, in return, you should go out and be merciful. Find someone who needs help, listen to their troubles, and help them solve their problems. Sun Lang squinted his eyes and said, You can't raise this flag randomly. Maybe when I go out, I'll see a SEAL junior sister who is much cuter than you and whose entire family has been exterminated and who is carrying a great sword. Then find out the real culprit and avenge her. Zhang Yinluo shouted. So, get out and do your work. After a moment, Sun Lang snorted and swaggered out of the immortal fishing house. He muttered, Tisk, I'll bring back a girl who's much cuter than you with big breasts. Let's see where you're going to cry. Forget it. I have nothing to do anyway. I'll go and find something. He stood on the street and looked around to see if there was an NPC with an exclamation mark above his head. Then his eyes lit up. On the other side of the street, there was a figure that was staggering. He was leaning on a slightly old Dao banner as he walked over step by step. I was careless. I forgot about the immortal fishing house. Immeasurable, heavenly venerable. If the new owner of the immortal fishing house was hurt by that demon, I'll be in deep trouble, but I don't seem to be in a good condition today. I'll go and observe for a while. Don't show up. Don't attract the demon's attention. Just check. While the Taoist was thinking, he suddenly heard a gust of wind. He looked up and saw a young man with a bright smile walking quickly toward him. The young man held his arm and said, Hey, Taoist, you're walking with difficulty. Are you feeling unwell? I'm here to be merciful for my family and help her accumulate some good karma so that her breasts can get bigger. So, I'll take you to see a doctor. A good person. A good person. I didn't expect such a young man to exist. He's really the only bright color in this cruel world. Yes, I'll read his fortune. Such a good person. Such a good person. The Taoist priest was moved. With tears in his eyes, he glanced at Sun Lang's fortune. F. F asterisk CK. Chapter 114. What's wrong? What's wrong? Sun Lang was stunned. He looked at the Taoist priest who was rubbing his eyes. Am I that ugly? The Taoist priest squatted on the ground, blinked his eyes, and cautiously glanced back at Sun Lang. Then his professional habit kicked in, and he began to look at Sun Lang's face again. Then his face instantly turned green, as if he had been hugged by a burly man in a Chong Sam and black stockings who had danced for 30 minutes in the pure land of bliss. He abruptly turned his head back and vomited. Sun Lang blinked and said happily, "What are you doing? Are you looking for trouble? Are you trying to blackmail me? How could it be? How could it be?" The Taoist priest covered his mouth desperately to control himself. He murmured, "I've been a monk since I was young. I learned from my teacher. By the age of 30, I've mastered Taoism. I've been traveling the world for years. I've seen a lot of people. I can tell if it's good or bad. I can tell if it's good or bad. But this benefactor, how could it be? How could it be?" He didn't believe in superstition. He put his grandfather's reputation on the line and looked at Sun Lang's face again. "I don't believe in superstition. F asterisk. Sun Lang looked at the Taoist priest who was rolling and crawling to the corner of the wall and vomiting. His gaze was complicated. I've seen monks who were struck to death by lightning after saying one word. I've also seen fortune tellers whose faces were covered with poisonous boils after reciting 2 lines of poetry. In the end, they were killed by Xiongba. However, I've never seen a Taoist priest who started vomiting after looking at other people's faces. Your punishment for revealing the secrets of heaven is rather novel. I'm sorry." The Taoist priest who was squatting on the ground vomited, slowly recovered. "Benefactor, I've never seen your face before. You're playing this trick with me again. You Taoists don't know how to keep up with the times, and you don't know how to make progress." Sun Lang stood far away and said earnestly, "Are you trying to say that my fate has jumped out of the 3 realms, is not in the 5 elements, and is hidden in heavy fog, as if I was not born in this world? Sigh, it's so old-fashioned and boring. Even if you want to cheat money, this isn't the way to cheat." The Taoist priest smiled bitterly and said, "You must be joking. How can I be a lowly liar? Since you're living in this world, you are already a creature of this world. How can your fate jump out of the 3 realms? Looks like she really doesn't have any magical powers. She actually can't tell that I'm a transmigrator." Sun Lang nodded. "Then what are you making a fuss about? Could it be that you've discovered some earth-shattering secret, and you're afraid that the heavenly secrets will be revealed, so you're only willing to tell me after I give you money?" The Taoist priest tried his best to shift his gaze, forcing himself not to look at Sun Lang's face. He said in distress, "It's not like that. I didn't see any shocking secrets either. Scumbag trash." The paladin squinted and said, "Then why did you vomit?" "I felt dizzy, and then I felt nauseous. Plus, I ate a lot of unpleasant things recently, so I vomited. Sorry for my rudeness." The Taoist priest said with a complicated expression, "I've traveled extensively and seen countless creatures. All creatures in this world have their own destinies and destinies. Only your face, it's really," he sighed deeply, "it's ever-changing and amorphous. I can't tell it all. Looks like your posture still needs to be improved." Sun Lang waved his hand. "Well, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Sir, please wait." The Taoist priest stopped Sun Lang. "I have something to ask. Sir, do you live nearby?" The paladin nodded. "Yes." A hint of joy flashed in the eyes of the Taoist priest. "Have you heard of the Fishing Immortal House?" Sun Lang nodded as if nothing had happened. "Yes, I eat there every day. What's wrong?" The Taoist priest was shocked and subconsciously looked at Sun Lang's face. "Sir, have you been feeling unwell recently? Did you see something dirty?" "You, ugh." Sun Lang stepped back and looked at the Taoist priest vomit as if nothing had happened. His expression changed, and then he said calmly, I think you're the one who hasn't been feeling well recently, and you're also the one who has seen something dirty. I'm not joking. The Taoist priest leaned against the wall and gasped. There's a monster in the fishing immortal house. I'm going to subdue the monster now. Is the market for Taoists not very good recently? You have this kind of business? Sun Lang reached out and took the Taoist banner in the Taoist priest's hand. He read, fortune telling, evil vanquishing, observing feng shui, fighting kings, and leveling up, doing homework, holding parent-teacher meetings, catching pet spirits, going up to the 9 heavens to catch baby dragons, going down to the 5 seas to catch love fish. What's the matter with the rest? The Taoist priest didn't have time to care about the rest of the Legend of Legends. He hurriedly grabbed the Taoist banner and looked at it a few times. Seeing that there was nothing wrong with it, he was relieved. He cupped his hands and said, Anyway, don't go to the fishing immortal house these days. Wait for me to subdue the monster inside. So, isn't it good to be alive? Sun Lang sighed. You Taoists have one good thing about you. If there's any trouble, you run faster than monks. What are you looking at? Do you miss poetry? We monks should always have kindness in our hearts. It's our duty to vanquish demons and protect the people. But Taoist priest, your legs are shaking. You just vomited 3 times. Your body is very weak. Not to mention a monster. Even an ordinary strong man can defeat you. Sun Lang shook his head and said, Moreover, Master Sanzang, whose combat power is equivalent to 6 Hanzangs, once said that humans are born by their mothers and monsters are born by their mothers. If a monster has a kind heart, then she is no longer a monster. And if this monster is a beautiful and capable beauty, she will probably be promoted to a heroine or an important female character. Anyone who goes against her will automatically become a villain. Look at Fahai. He is your role model. He stretched out his hand and said gently, Let me introduce myself. My name is Sun Lang, a paladin. Now I've left the Paladin Guild and plan to do it alone. 3 days ago, I bought the Immortal Fishing House and changed it to Jinching's office. The monster you mentioned is a chrysanthemum spirit. I named her Zhu Ying, and she is now working with me. In view of the fact that she is about to become the first monster girl to wear a white silk-made costume since the creation of the Divine Land, then for the sake of love and justice, I will never allow you to hurt her, even a little bit. Do you understand? The Taoist priest was stunned for a moment, and then his expression changed immediately. Benefactor, don't joke. I'm not joking. Sun Lang pointed to himself. Look at my righteous eyes, handsome face, gentle expression. F***, you really deserve a beating. The Taoist priest wanted to explain more, but in the past 3 days, he had experienced unimaginable things and encountered a cruel betrayal. Under physical and mental exhaustion, he had just vomited a few times. At this moment, he finally cannot hold on. His vision turned black, and he fell to the ground and fainted. Sun Lang sighed. Damn it. Chapter 115. I didn't expect you actually saved a person. Zhang Yinluo looked at the Taoist priest lying on the bed and said in surprise, It's really out of my expectations. Sun Lang blinked and looked at heroine Zhang affectionately. As long as it's something I promise you, I will definitely do it. Go to hell. Zhang Yinluo's face was a little red. She looked around. But why did you bring him to the inn? There should be a place for him to rest in the fishing immortal tower, and you can ask this Taoist priest if he has any difficulties. First of all, because this Taoist priest came to catch demons, how could you bring him to the fishing immortal tower? Sun Lang roughly explained what happened just now, and then said with a complicated tone, Secondly, he stretched out his leg and lightly kicked the bed, waking up the Taoist priest lying on the bed. The Taoist priest, lying on the bed, slowly woke up. His eyes were blank. He blinked and saw Sun Lang standing beside the bed. Then, wretch, seems like something happened that I don't know about. Zhang Yinluo said expressionlessly, Tell me honestly, how many cans of canned herring Did you feed him? Sun Lang shook his head and said, I didn't. Canned herring has to be transported from the extreme north of Shi. It's not easy to get it, and I don't have much stock here. Why would I waste it on him? That's what you said before, and then you took out 6 cans in one go at Marquis Jing'an's residence, and even gave me 2 cans. When the two were arguing, the Taoist priest had already struggled to sit up and reached out to grab Sun Lang. Benefactor, listen to me. Transvestite is definitely not allowed. Definitely not allowed. It's okay, don't worry. A girl with a big penis and a transvestite are 2 completely different creatures. Sun Lang said casually, and, you see, I'm right. With your current fighting power, you're just asking for trouble. Let me tell you, chrysanthemums are usually hermaphrodites. That is to say, the other party has 2 sets of mature reproductive organs. Do you know what this means? This means that if you lose, you may enter the defeated plot and retrieve the humiliating CG. I think this is an unbearable result, even for a monk. Get out of my way. Zhang Yinluo pushed Sun Lang to the side and pulled over a stool to sit down. He smiled at the Taoist priest and said, Taoist priest, I see that your complexion is weak, your spirit is low, and your stomach is rumbling. Did you eat something bad that caused indigestion? Let's not talk about Zhuing first. Why did you become like this? What happened to you? Girl, you are a good person. The Taoist priest looked at Zhang Yinluo's face and sighed. It's easy to see from your face. Have you recently quit your original job? Have you joined a very suspicious organization? Strange. Your face shows that you have been teased and bullied these days, but you are not angry. Instead, you seem to be enjoying it. In addition, your marriage is a bit unstable. Although you are a good match, there are a lot of twists and turns, mainly reflected in the endless number of competitors, and it seems that they are all brought in by you. For a moment, his occupational disease kicked in. He didn't know how to keep his mouth shut, so he rambled on until he felt a sharp, murderous aura. Only then did he come back to his senses and obediently shut his mouth. Zhang Yinluo's face was as beautiful as peach blossoms, but her eyes were as cold as ice. She put her hand on her satchel and smiled. Taoist priest, are you accurate? This Taoist brother did indeed have some ability. From Zhang Yinluo's movements and the space between his brows, he immediately sensed a danger that could be said to be unbearable. However, the skills he had learned in his life, the holiness of his sex inheritance, the dignity of being a top fortune teller in the industry, the glory of the divination Tao, all of these were on his shoulders. Could he shrink back? Yes. The handsome Taoist priest immediately turned his head and said shamefully, I'm sorry. My Taoist skills have not reached the peak. Sometimes I can't predict accurately. Especially now, my body is weak and listless. Zhang Yinluo nodded with a smile, and then her sharp eyes turned to Sun Lang, who had just been watching the show. The paladin blinked and jumped on the spot cutely. She tilted her head and said, I don't know anything, Meow. The Taoist priest, whose attention was attracted by the paladin's actions and words, looked at Sun Lang's face again and then cooperated with him. Blurg, Zhang Yinluo couldn't help but laugh, and the coldness in her eyes melted like water. The Taoist priest, who sensed that the crisis was gone, breathed a sigh of relief. What happened to me is not worth mentioning. Monks are not afraid of hardships. Just take it as a test from the Tao ancestor. The real danger comes from a monster in the fishing immortal tower. She has spiritual intelligence. If we let her stay in the mortal world and come in contact with human beings, it will only cause more trouble. Zhang Yinluo frowned. Taoist priest, you are a monk, and monks are merciful. Sun Lang immediately leaned over and whispered, No, that seems to be the philosophy of the bald donkeys. The creed of these cow noses is to believe it if you want to believe it, but if you don't believe it, get out and don't disturb my ascension. Is that so? Zhang Yinluo frowned and whispered. Then why did he embarrass Zhuing? The first possibility is that he wants to cheat money. The second possibility is that he is one of the legendary perverted Taoist priests who specializes in capturing cute boy monsters and cute girl monsters back to the Taoist temple and making them into cauldrons. The Taoist priest's eyes twitched. Benefactors, don't think that I am exaggerating. If you keep that monster by your side, it will inevitably cause trouble. Zhang Yinluo frowned and said, Taoist priest, you are a monk. You have to be reasonable. Zhu Ying is just a flower demon. She has never hurt anyone before. The reason why she made such a scene was that she was too hungry. Now that we are taking care of and teaching her, and our companions are accompanying and protecting her, she will not cause any trouble. I used to think that all monsters are wild and untamed monsters who feed on human beings. But now, although I don't know what other monsters are like, at least Zhu Ying is trustworthy. The little flower monster who knows nothing is trying to learn the habits and knowledge of human beings. Wrong. I'm not a bloodthirsty and unreasonable person. If that monster has not killed anyone, then I can't wait to protect her. How can I kill her? The Taoist priest shook his head and sighed, but not killing her and not caring about her are two completely different things. The disaster that the monster brought about is not that the monster's wild nature is hard to tame and it hurts people, but his tone became cold. Instead, as a monster, the demonic aura she releases will involuntarily attract other monsters of the same kind. Perhaps in the next moment, or perhaps in the next day, there will be a powerful, cruel, and bloodthirsty real monster who views humans as their mortal enemy who will find her and take her away. They will train her, brainwash her, tell her the so-called truth, instill hatred in her, distort her, and turn her into a real monster. At that time, not only will she suffer a cruel fate, even you who are by her side will not be able to escape this calamity. Zhang Yinluo was stunned. What? Sun Lang blinked, hugged heroine Zhang, and said in shock, So terrible. Chapter 116. Throwing Sun Lang aside, Zhang Yinluo didn't have time to investigate whether this guy was trying to take advantage of her or was really scared. He hurriedly asked the Taoist priest, Is this true? What's going on? Monks don't lie, and I won't lie about this kind of thing. The Taoist priest shook his head and said, What's more, it's not a top secret. I can see that your body movements and breathing rhythm are quite mature. You must be a great disciple of the Vulture Spirit Palace to have such achievements at such a young age. Maybe you're a direct disciple of the Witch Fairy. Didn't the Witch Fairy tell you about these strange things when she was bored? Zhang Yinluo's expression froze, and he turned his head away with laughter. My master urged me to practice martial arts very strictly. She didn't tell us these useless things. The Taoist priest knew something was wrong, but he was good at observing people's expressions. Now that he was clear-headed, he knew what could be said and what couldn't be investigated. He smiled and skipped the topic. Since that's the case, I'll overstep my boundaries and explain a little. Miss, everything in this world has spirituality. Insects, fish, birds, beasts, flowers, trees, and even things that people use for a long time can all become monsters. You can understand this, right? Zhang Yinluo nodded. Monsters cover the essence of things. Qi is chaotic in the middle, and things change outside. The form, spirit, Qi, and quality are used on the outside and inside. You're King knowledgeable, aren't you? The Taoist priest cursed in his heart and said, Humans can absorb the Qi of heaven and earth, refine their spirit through inhalation and exhalation, and store their genuine Qi to become a dragon among men, above ordinary people. Monsters can naturally do the same. But there are more than tens of thousands of new warriors in the Empire who can cultivate their Neishi every year. Have you ever seen a real monster since you were young? Have you ever heard of a real monster story? Zhang Yinluo shook his head and said, Never. Even you, a warrior with an extraordinary background and a prominent sect, have never heard of or seen a monster, let alone ordinary people. Why is that? Are there really so few monsters? The Taoist priest shook his head and said, Actually, that's not the case. Although it's thousands of times more difficult for a monster to transform into a human than for a mortal to cultivate inner Qi, the world is so vast and the population is so large. The number of monsters shouldn't be so small. The girl blinked. Could it be that someone is interfering? It's not just humans. Divine Land is a flourishing age for humans. Humans' fear of the unknown and their rejection of foreign species have been engraved in our blood and bones. People from different villages and regions will reject each other. People from different regions will despise each other and be full of prejudice, let alone people who speak different languages, come from different backgrounds, and look different. The Taoist shook his head and sighed. If human beings cannot tolerate and be friendly to each other, they will be hostile to each other or even kill each other for interests and other more inexplicable reasons. How can they live in peace with the demons? However, this is only one of the reasons. His expression gradually became solemn. And the other reason, in this world, most people don't know that there's a group of real monsters hiding in the shadows. They are full of unresolvable hatred and enmity towards human beings, and their ultimate goal is to exterminate human beings and destroy civilization. To be the enemy of human beings, they need more clansmen and strength. So they travel around the world, looking for their clansmen who have just awakened. They bring these young and ignorant clansmen back to their nest and teach them combat skills and strength to kill. They induce the malice in their hearts and instill their hatred towards human beings. Zhang Yinluo was stunned and said, "These monsters, why do they do this? Why are they hostile to human beings? Now the human beings are so prosperous. Why do they want to hit a stone with an egg?" Of course, there's a hatred that can't be resolved. The Taoist priest hesitated for a moment and sighed. "I don't know much about it. According to my master, this matter should be traced back to the ancient times. Many historical books and records from the ancient times were scattered, and the few descriptions of the ancient times that were left behind are close to myths and legends to us. However, the demon race has a long lifespan, and their inherited memory is more stable than that of human beings. We have once captured many monsters full of hatred and interrogated them about the origin of their hatred. They said that our ancestors, the ancient human beings, took away all the hope of the demon race's continuation, invaded their homeland, and almost exterminated all their clansmen." Zhang Yinluo was stunned for a moment and said helplessly, "Is it a struggle for the survival of the race? Then there is no other way. Our comfortable life and peaceful prosperity today are all fought for by our ancestors in the ancient times. Even if they used some dishonorable methods, we are not qualified to judge and criticize them. That's the reason. Miss, you're much better than those bald donkeys." The Taoist priest said cheerfully, "My Taoist disciples think the same way too. Only those bald bastards who have been reciting scriptures all day long would say that there must be a cause and an effect. Ba, if you monks are willing to use your bald heads to resist the claws of that demon, don't drag us down with you. If you want me to say, when we meet a demon, we should give it an urgent order." He suddenly realized that Zhang Yinluo looked a little unfriendly. He thought for a moment and knew that he had said something wrong. He smiled bitterly and said, "Miss, you don't have to be vigilant. We are monks. How can we be addicted to killing? That monster is born from heaven and earth, and is also a living creature of this world. If we kill it casually, we will be tainted with karma. However, as I said before, we will not let the monster wander among the people. Even if this monster is innocent and kind, those real monsters are not kind people. Think about it. If those cruel and bloodthirsty monsters find that little flower monster and want to take her away, will you agree? What's more, those monsters will not let you go." Zhang Yinluo's heart was in a mess. Her rationality told her that the Taoist priest's words were very reasonable. However, humans were born as humans because in addition to rationality, there were also indescribable emotions. She could not make up her mind at the moment and subconsciously looked at Sun Lang. This guy had once miraculously solved her once desperate predicament and problem. This time, Sun Lang had been in deep thought until Zhang Yinluo nudged him and he came back to his senses. The paladin looked at Zhang Yinluo, blinked, and smiled. Somehow, after seeing this smile, Zhang Yinluo's nervous and chaotic mood slowly calmed down. Then, the paladin took a step forward and looked solemn. Hey, Taoist priest, wretch. BF asterisk King serious. We're talking about business. Sun Lang scolded. Cover your eyes. Oh, the Taoist priest obediently covered his eyes with both hands. Benefactor, do you have something to say? I mean, are those fiendish demons still moving in the dark? Sun Lang said coldly. After the outbreak of the War of Tianyuan, they had been quiet for a long time. The Taoist priest's expression changed. He wanted to turn his head to look at Sun Lang, but his self-control was still strong. He forcibly stopped this impulse and asked curiously, Benefactor, how do you know? It is true. When the Second War of Tianyuan broke out, it was said that a small group of monsters thought that it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Based on the principle that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, they tried to unite with the extraterrestrial sky demon to exterminate the human race. Anyway, everyone has the same goal. Sun Lang shrugged and said, but unfortunately, the extraterrestrial sky demon is much more manly than them. Their principle is that the enemy of my enemy is still my enemy. So they even killed the monsters. That's right. Yeah, you are so young, but you even know such a secret of the War of Tianyuan. My master was invited as a consultant to negotiate with the demon race, so he knows a little about the past. The Taoist priest frowned. At that time, in order to not distract the soldiers, this matter was kept a secret. Except for the officers directly involved and a few high-ranking generals, even the ordinary generals in the army do not know about this. Benefactor, you are. Sun Lang still smiled very gently. Taoist priest, how many of you fortune-tellers have died from bad mouths since ancient times? Chapter 117. Taoist priest, how many of you fortune-tellers have died from their foul mouths since ancient times? The Taoist priest was stunned at first, and then he was shocked. He waved his hand and said, I was just curious. You don't have to answer, and I won't ask. Sun Lang nodded and said sincerely, actually, you might not believe it, but all I know was told to me by a monk who passed by my house when I was young. I believe you, I believe you, I believe you. The handsome Taoist priest nodded again. You said that you were one of the marshals who decided on this matter back then, and I believe you. Sun Lang glanced at the Taoist priest a few times without batting an eyelid, then smiled. Then you can continue. What happened when the monsters failed to lead the way? In short, it was the rational side of the demons who recognized the threat of the sky demon and the dangerous situation of the demon race. Putting aside the fact that the purpose of the extraterrestrial devils is to destroy all the creatures in the world, is a threat to the survival of the demon race itself. Besides, he said slowly, if human beings notice that the demon race is colluding with the extraterrestrial devils, they will certainly spare a hand and try their best to annihilate this ancient enemy in order to prevent a fire in their backyard. If they are careless, the demon race may be besieged by both the human race and the extraterrestrial devils. After hundreds or thousands of years of recuperation, the demon race will be wiped clean again, and the race will be consigned to eternal damnation. Zhang Yinluo said in disbelief. Did they negotiate a truce with us? That's not all. The war has lasted for decades, and many things have happened. The relationship between the Empire and the demons is also ambiguous, sometimes distant, sometimes close. Those demons aren't brainless fools. They're very smart. If the humans were in a disadvantageous position, they would selectively help to equalize the situation. If the humans were in an advantageous position, they would withdraw and let the sky demon recover. The Taoist priest smiled. No matter if the humans or the sky demon won, it would not be a good thing for the demon race. They needed the balance of the war. Only when the two giants were equally matched would it be the most advantageous situation for them. It was a very wise choice, Zhang Yinluo said slowly, but we still won in the end, didn't we? Didn't the Empire settle the score after the war? No, because some things happened in the later stages of the war. A portion of the demon race reached an agreement with the Empire. As for the specific details, it was decided by the imperial court. As for how the important figures decided, it was not something that an outsider like me could know. The Taoist priest shook his head and smiled bitterly. After the war, the world was at peace and a golden age came. The demons also ceased their activities. In the past 2 years, there was almost no news about their activities. However, we did not let down our guard. We still sent disciples to travel the world and pay attention to the demons' movements, because no one knows the human race's archenemy better than we do. They will definitely not let us go. He looked at Zhang Yinluo and said sincerely, "Miss, I do not have any ill intentions, but it is true that demons cannot coexist with humans. In the past few hundred years, we have never stopped fighting the demons. Only we can protect that little flower demon. I will bring her back to the sect and settle her down properly. We have a secret cave residence where the demons that we have been searching for and protecting all these years are placed. She will receive a proper place and a good education there." Zhang Yinluo's heart was in a mess. She could not make up her mind at the moment. She turned her head and saw Sun Lang in deep thought again. She could not help but tug at the ranger's clothes. "Hey, what are you thinking about? Say something." Sun Lang was silent for a moment and laughed softly. "I am thinking, who was the one who led and facilitated the negotiation with the demon race? After the war, the demons ceased their activities and hid in the dark. No one knows what they are planning, but the Empire did not care. They did not even ask about it. They even turned a blind eye to the demons' actions. Is there some dirty deal in this?" The Taoist priest's expression changed. "I know little about this. The one who was in charge of this was Hiss." He suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes flashed with horror. He seemed to have thought of something. You mean," Sun Lang tilted his head and laughed. It seems that the trend in the imperial court is not right recently. Even an outsider like the Taoist priest can smell something that can't be said." Zhang Yinluo was confused. "What are you talking about? Can you stop speaking in riddles?" The ranger smiled and reached out to touch Zhang Yinluo's head. The girl's face was a little red. She pushed Sun Lang's hand away. "Why are you suddenly touching me? You are so annoying." The two were flirting here, but the Taoist priest turned a blind eye. He lowered his head. His face was pale, and cold sweat poured down. He muttered, "Although it is very ridiculous, it is very possible. Those who are in power do not have any taboos. Those who achieve great things do not care about trifles. For that thing, it is not a problem to kill one's brother or brother. Colluding with a demon is nothing. She, as a woman, tried to covet that." Sun Lang sighed. "Taoist priest, don't say what you are thinking. If you go on like this, you will be beaten to death. Do you know?" The Taoist priest was stunned. Then, his face showed horror. Sun Lang waved his hand. Don't worry. I know a lot more than you. The guy beside me is an idiot. Moreover, you can't beat me. Don't think about killing him. Emmateus Buddha." The Taoist priest was stunned. Then, he said in annoyance, "This mouth of mine? When I was learning in the sect, I was often beaten by my fellow disciples. Later, my martial uncle and martial uncle started to beat me. In the end, my master was tired of beating me. Then, he chased me down the mountain and asked me to subdue demons and demons. I didn't expect that the human world is so dangerous." He shook his head and sighed. "A doctor can't cure himself. A fortune teller can't read his own fortune. It's so sad, so sad. Forgive me for being blunt, Taoist priest. There are 2 reasons why fortune tellers like you are beaten. First, you know too much. Second, your mouth is too annoying." Sun Lang gave him a thumbs up. "But it seems that your sect seems to follow the elite education of the law of the jungle. They believe that a fortune teller who can't be beaten to death is the best fortune teller. Taoist priest, your escaping skills must be good, so your life must be tough. Don't mention it. Even if my escaping skills are good, even if my life is tough, I can't win against evil people's hearts." At the mention of this, the Taoist priest's face suddenly became sad. He seemed to have thought of some unbearable past. "I've been learning since I was a child. I studied the heavenly Tao and devoted myself to fortune-telling. I thought I was an outsider, independent from the world. I didn't expect to fall into the hands of a group of hooligans. He covered his chest. His face was full of grief and indignation. He said painfully, I feel bitter in my heart. He didn't even give me 100 taels of silver. He didn't even give me 100 taels of silver. Chapter 118. I feel so bitter. He didn't even give me 100 taels of silver. He didn't even give me 100 taels of silver. Seeing that his expression was so sad, as if he had suffered a great grievance, those who heard it would be sad, and those who saw it would shed tears. Seeing that a monk with a weak face was so sad, Heroine Zhang's sympathy was unsurprisingly aroused. The girl's nature of helping the weak was awakened again. She said seriously, Taoist priest, have you been wronged? Have you been bullied by someone? Please tell us, and we will seek justice for you. As she said this, she secretly nudged Sun Lang with her elbow. In this way, we can divert his attention so that he doesn't have time to investigate Zhu Ying's matter. We can take the opportunity to think of a countermeasure. Moreover, if we seek justice for him, he will owe us a favor, and we won't be too harsh on him. Maybe we can help him think of a solution. Sun Lang obviously did not understand Heroine Zhang's good intentions, but the girl's slightly intimate action still made him laugh, so he nodded and said, Yes, yes. You two are good people. The Taoist priest sighed, as if he had opened a chatterbox. I wanted to go to the Fishing Immortals Tower 3 days ago, but unfortunately I met a man on the way. He happened to hear my words and knew that I was going to catch a demon, so he stopped me and didn't allow me to go. He also said that he didn't know whether there were demons in the Fishing Immortals Tower, but there was a ferocious and cruel female devil, and he asked me not to go to the tower. Female devil? Zhang Yinluo laughed and said, This man is good at talking nonsense. I have lived in the Fishing Immortals Tower for a few days. How could there be a female devil? Yes, but I was too superstitious about my divination. At that time, I observed carefully, and that man didn't lie. He really thought that there was a ferocious female devil in the Fishing Immortals Tower, and he stopped me for my own good. The Taoist priest sighed and said, Now that I think about it, he probably used some method to shield me from the divination and made me fall into his trap. When he mentioned what happened at that time, he was so angry that his beard trembled. He couldn't bear to look back and said, Now, it seems that bastard had bad intentions. He didn't give me any chance to explain and ordered his subordinates to hold me up. He said that there was an easy job that could fill my stomach for me to do. If I did well, I could even get some money. I thought, hey, how could there be such a good thing in this world? But looking at his face, he didn't lie. So I believed him. He said sadly, Back then, I was chased out of the mountain by my master to cultivate in the mortal world. But the mortal world is more tempering than the temple in the deep mountains. In the sect, because I talked too much, I would often be beaten up by my fellow disciples and masters. At the foot of the mountain, when I told people's fortunes, I would always get angry and rolled their eyes. Some of the hot-tempered ones would even fight with me. I did religious rituals for people and did feng shui for people, but I was chased out by people with sticks just because I talked too much. I didn't lie about that. They were guilty and did immoral things. Feng shui and religious rituals couldn't solve that. I gave them a clear path, but they didn't believe me. Sun Lang sighed and said, This is the case of bad money chasing good money. Those who don't know divination and divination can do well as long as they are sweet talkers. But people like you can't do well. This must be the system's fault. Taoist, maybe you're not suitable for this version. I advise you to change your profession. I heard that hunters in this version are quite fierce. I think so too. Anyway, divination and divination are just for personal cultivation. I don't need to make a living from it. My mission is to cultivate and subdue demons, not to tell people's fortunes. The Taoist said sadly, so when I heard that man say such things, I also yearned for it. If there was such a good thing, wouldn't it be much easier than telling people's fortunes, he sighed. I didn't expect him to bring me to a fighting ring and write a gourmet challenge. He asked me to participate in the competition. He said that if I could eat the most in the allotted time, I would get a bonus of 100 taels. I went up and smelled it. Gourmet? It was as if I had fished it out of a latrine pit. But there were more than 100 taels of bonus. It was enough for me to live for a few years. Besides, the great Tao is in dog sh*t. A monk wholeheartedly pursues the Tao. This is nothing. Zhang Yinluo heard this and was surprised. He immediately turned to look at Sun Lang. The paladin turned his head to the side as if nothing had happened. The Taoist didn't notice the abnormality of the two and continued. I made up my mind and went up to eat sh*t. I didn't expect that the food was really magical. It smelled very bad, but it actually tasted very good. Although there was a strange smell, it had nothing to do with the reincarnation of the 5 grains. It could even nourish qi in cold, relieve pain, clear heat, disperse blood, and lower the turbid air in the large intestine. I was very happy. Plus, a monk is a vegetarian. My taste has always been bland. This stinky tofu tasted so good, so I ate more. When I came back to my senses, I had already won the first place. When the Taoist said this, his eyes flashed with pain and anger. The man who persuaded me to come here was actually the organizer of this arena. He gave me 100 taels of bonus in front of the onlookers, which attracted a lot of exclamations. I held this huge sum of money with mixed feelings in my heart. The money I got from fortune-telling over the years might not even be this much. I didn't expect that the Taoist ancestor would pity me and let me eat a full meal and get so much money. Needless to say, when Zhang Yinluo heard the words stinky tofu, she had already understood what had happened. After all, a few days ago, she stood beside Sun Lang and listened to the paladin teach Sun Lang the dirty black box operation to Zhang Jinyuan. She glared at Sun Lang fiercely and knew what had happened to the Taoist priest. And then they took the money away. Yes, that group of evil creatures even pretended to tell me that I, a monk, had received such a huge sum of money in front of so many people. Maybe I would be targeted by thieves. He wanted to send someone to send me back to the inn where I was staying, but I didn't expect. The Taoist priest hit the bed hard and said hatefully, I didn't expect. In a small alley, they immediately changed their faces and snatched my silver. They took out half a string of money and sent me away. 100 taels of silver. They didn't even give me 1 tael of silver. I quarreled with him, and he actually said that I was close, that I was reducing costs, and that it was the basic skill of a black-hearted capitalist. He also said that I performed well and wanted to continue earning money, so I continued to eat with him. How could I let him go? In for a penny, in for a pound, I went back to the inn and disguised myself as a middle-aged man. Then I inquired about the location of the next arena. I was going to eat him up and get the bonus. Then I was going to expose his true face in front of everyone. The Taoist priest's face was filled with incomparable pain. I didn't expect that this bastard's eyes were so sharp. He recognized me at a glance. Do you know what this shameless person did? He directly mixed feces into my bowl of stinky tofu. Fortunately, when I was chased away by my master to clean the latrine, I recognized this item. Otherwise, I would have. He stroked his chest and said with an inexplicable grief, I feel bitter in my heart. Sun Lang's gaze was complicated, and he exclaimed, in just a few days, Zhang Jianyuan has become so handsome. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.